Hey folks, Randy Newberg here with another episode of Leupold's Hunt Talk Radio. This one is version 2.0 of marital advice. Those of you who listened to the first podcast, I had 3 guys on that podcast. Well, today I have 3 women, all have different phases or stages of their marriage careers, if you want to call it that. Us guys are so much headache. Sometimes I think it is a job for these women. But we're going to talk about all the things about hunting and marriages from the perspective and standpoint that a woman sees it. And I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot. I'm sure I'm going to disagree with a few things. I hope I can interject a few things that are helpful along the way. But it's, I think it's going to be fun. I know all 3 of these women, and I'm very appreciative that they have offered to be on our podcast and possibly risk some marital harmony by being truthful. Let's hope not. But before we get to that, I want to thank Leupold for making this podcast possible. It is called Leupold's Hunt Talk Radio, and if you're in the market for optics, go to leupold.com. Check out their new spotters, their new binos, all their observation stuff for this year, new rangefinders. They got new all kinds of stuff. And then there's always the great, reliable standby, the gold ring rifle scopes that we all love so much also. So, leupold.com. Go there. Buy some optics. And then we have Orion coolers. Greatest coolers I know of. We use them. We abuse them. We live out of them. Go to orioncoolers.com. Use promo code RANDY and save 20% on the best coolers I could ever tell you to go buy. Onyx Maps. You guys hear us talk about that all the time. Couldn't live without it. Couldn't hunt the way we do without it. OnyxMaps.com. Go there, buy app products, use promo code RANDY, and save 20% on any of your app purchases. And now that you've probably drawn some tags, some of the tag drawings are starting to roll in. OnX is your ticket to e-scouting. If you want to be ready when season comes and know what that landscape looks like, know what your plan should be, you probably are going to have a way better plan for each incremental amount that you use OnX. I'm pretty sure your hunt will get incrementally better. And then last, and never least, is gohunt.com. If you want to be your own hunting consultant, their insider service is what I use. Pretty much every tag we end up with, in some way, shape, or form, is the result of using their insider. Go to gohunt.com, and when you sign up for the insider and use promo code RANDY, you're going to end up with $50 of mad money of free credit in their gear shop. And they have a great gear shop. So, gohunt.com, sign up for the insider, draw more tags, go hunt more, and use promo code RANDY. Now, when I hit the switch here, we're going to have Hillary and Morgan and Jennifer and me having a discussion, and they're going to tell me where I'm out in the weeds, and they're probably going to teach me a few things, even though I've been married and hunting for 30 years. I'm sure I should be taking some notes here. So, with no further delay, I have no idea how long this is going to take, but I have a suspicion we're going to be here for a while. Stay tuned. That's all I can say. I see the 3 of them. They're all smiling. They're slightly nervous, but they're smiling. Jennifer has pages of notes. Hillary just came in from work. She came from the airport. Morgan is smiling like she always does. And I think they've all got some really good advice for those of us who want to stay married but yet hunt a lot. So here we go. Stay tuned. All right, folks, I told you that we are about ready to embark on a podcast that is going to result in possibly some saved marriages or some marriages just crashing on the rocks. And the 3 women with me are already laughing, thinking, oh my goodness, what did we get into? Those of you who listened to the podcast that dropped on February 11th, I can say that because I remember it was my 30th wedding anniversary. Ooh. On that podcast, I had 3 guys of varying degrees of length of marriage. One even wasn't married, and he just sat there with his jaw open like, oh no, really? Well, on this one, I have 3 women who are all married. I believe all married to hunters, all come with different backgrounds towards this idea of marriage advice. And I don't know if this one's going to be as humorous as the last one because these 3 people are going to really sort the BS from the buckwheat here. So if those of you who are listening think that you've got it figured out in life, in your married life or your relationship, even if you're not married, by the time this podcast is over, it's going to be life-changing. Wow. Your hunting life from this point forward is going to get a whole lot better. You 3 agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right. So on my left, I have Hillary. Doc Hillary, is that
sure.
Your Instagram handle is
Doc Hillary, yeah.
Doc Hillary, Hillary Lampers. And you do your own podcast, Hillary, you and Ryan, your husband, and that podcast is
Hunt Harvest Health.
Yeah. And is it marriage advice?
No. Hunt Harvest Health is just a accumulation of the things that both Ryan and I love to do. So I'm obviously a physician. I love health topics. We love food. I was a nutritionist in my first life. And so we love food. We love growing food, gardening, plants. We call it the other side of the plate because if you hunt, cool. you know that side, but we call the other side of the plate. And then, of course, my husband hunts. He lives for that. That's his, besides gardening, that's his passion. So we brought them all 3 together and we talked to, well, anybody who will listen to our podcast, obviously, but probably because my husband, the stealthy hunter, if you don't already know him, he's well known for hunting big game, Western hunting. And so our brand is actually called the Stealthy Hunter. And we just found a way that we could work together, which we've been married 22 years and we never worked together. We had kids together and we had a house together. We did garden together. But other than that, we never did. So we found a way to bring our interests together and we launched that podcast a little over 2 years ago. And it's just changed our lives. That's cool. Why we're here in Bozeman again. So it's, that's
because you grew up here.
I did. I grew up here in the 80s and early 90s when Bozeman was nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to about spouses working together because this building we're sitting in right here, my wife used to work here. And we still have the debate of whether she quit or got fired. She says she quit, and I believe she's correct. I just, the male ego gets sensitive about things like that, so I got to bring it up. But Margaret, you have been married how long, you and Mike?
We just had our 3rd anniversary.
3rd. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. And are both of you Montana?
We both are resident Montanas. I came from northern Wisconsin about 13 years ago, and he came here when he was 2, so we consider ourselves Montanans.
Okay. But, all right. And Mike was not on the prior podcast.
No, he was not.
The guest to your left, my right, Jennifer May, her husband, Bart, was on the prior podcast. So, Jen, I hope that we don't put you in a position to say something where it costs you marital strife or cost Bart marital strife is probably the greater likelihood.
No.
So you guys have been married how long?
We will be married 23 years in August.
Wow. And you've got 4 kids. I know 4 that. Kids. Ages
21 is the oldest, then 19, then 15, then 12.
Wow. And Morgan, you don't have any kids. And Hillary, how old are yours?
10 and almost 4.
Okay. I saw Ryan had something. They were jumping up on a training. It looked like he was doing training.
So I've been
them.
in Seattle working for 10 days, which he's on daddy duty. So they have a routine and they do a workout every night.
Okay.
So
He
they love
posted
to work
that.
out with dad. Yeah.
Yeah, he posted that on Instagram the other day.
Yeah.
So there you have it, folks. That gives you a bit of the spectrum of how long our guests have been married, the complications of kids, and at what age the kids are. And now we're going to get into maybe we should try to either validate or invalidate some of the topics we brought up on the prior podcast that about the guys. So I said that guys are stupid, that women are smart, that somewhere in like 6th or 7th grade when they said, all right, all the boys go over to this class and all the girls go over to this class, they said it was health education.
They call it maturation classes.
They
now.
do, don't they?
What do they call it?
Maturation.
Really?
My daughter calls them masturation. And we were trying to figure out what that was. And then I got an email from the principal about maturation classes. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Okay. Well, I think they called it sex ed or something like that when I was.
sex ed.
That's how
Yep.
long ago I was in school. But really, what I've discovered in my adult life is when I know what they told us guys as boys. I don't know what they told the women, but from that point on, you could never win an argument with any of the women I've known.
You're teasing. You can win arguments.
No, Jen, I don't win arguments. I'm just smart enough now to not argue.
To give in.
Yeah, because I realize guys come to the table in a debate with a woman with very few tools. I mean, we are so under-prepared. But yet some guys I know who hunt think they're going to win the argument.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And so when guys come and want to argue and debate like that, do you just roll your eyes and like, here we go again?
I feel like, I don't know, and maybe Morgan can address this better because we've been married for over 20 years. I don't really feel like there's a debate anymore.
There isn't for us.
Okay.
It's more of a, I feel like at this stage, it's more of a, what's the word? Like, it's more of like debating about whose job is more important, when the kids have to be picked up, what the calendar is. We're going to sit down and look at the calendar. We're going to figure out the calendar. When I was 3 years into marriage, I didn't have children, and he was going to go on a hunt. It was definitely a debate about does he love me or hunting more.
For sure.
That's not the debate anymore for me.
Okay.
But I know it's a big debate, and obviously I'm just addressing your, like, how many years you've been married, 3 years. That was more, I think, my thing back then.
Okay.
Than it is now when you throw kids in and finances and mortgages and calendars and all that in.
Limited vacation time.
Yeah. And like, family vacation, how we're going to put all that together. So,
Yeah. So Morgan, to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
So I made Mike sign a form that he wouldn't hold anything against
That's right.
you here.
No, he knows.
So does Mike ever show up and say, I'm going to win this debate?
He's tried. Honestly, we both really, really enjoy going hunting and going out in the outdoors. It's more of I get irritated if I can't go with him.
Oh, really?
Like I get mad, like, oh, I have to stay here. Like I want to be out with you. But he definitely feels it's his right. And I'm definitely more like, I will bite the bullet for lack of better terms. Like, I need to work this day. I probably shouldn't call in sick. I'm the one that'll like sit it out and, kind of resent him while he's gone all weekend. But yeah, I mean, in his mind, there's always no reason why he shouldn't be able to go.
Yeah, that's how guys are. Like I said before we turned on the mics, guys are really simple. We're like the 2-year-old male black lab. Let's go hunting. Oh boy, play fetch. That's how narrow our view of the world is. So when we're selfish with the family's time. We don't see it that way.
No.
Here's how a guy sees it. Well, I was hunting when you met me.
Yep.
You know what?
I've heard that.
What the heck? You think it's not fair for you to expect me to change just because we got married, and
Right. And in the meantime, you've like been pregnant, birthed babies. Like, I mean, talk about change. Come on. Like, you shouldn't change at all because I've had to do no changing. Like, it's a weird thing. I think it's very tunnel vision too. Like,
it is.
Like, it's like, I need to do this. That's what I've heard for 20 years. I need to do this. This is what I need to do. This is who I am. If I don't do this, I'm not me. I can't do that. And I totally 100% understand that and respect that, but there's a point where it's like, okay, we don't need meat anymore. We don't need these things anymore. It's you realize that it is their time, and yeah, it can be difficult, right? Because like she said, I think women, we do bite the bullet a lot because, well, when you have young children, because I know Jen hunts, but when you have young children, the roles just change. Like when you have young children, women you can't take a 2-year-old out into the mountains. It's somebody has to stay home. And if they're young, they want mom needs to be there. Mom is like the kind of nucleus of the family, and she's the one that needs to be there. So there is a lot of that. I think that feeling of you are left out. You feel left out. You feel like you don't get to go do these things because you have to be home with these children. Whereas the man can just say, well, this is me. I have to do this. But he doesn't have to stay home and breastfeed a kid. And like,
well, he couldn't. He could stay home, but he couldn't. But not gonna.
Yeah, but it's not the instinctual. So we tend to bite the bullet. Like, okay, well, I'll sacrifice my needs because I have this young life that depends on me, and I'm going to do that. Whereas maybe he's looking at it as, I got to provide for this young life, so I got to go do this thing, which I understand. But it's as the woman standing back, and I can see what Morgan's saying, and I remember feeling like that. It's like, well, there's things I want to do too. There's things I want to do today or this week, or I want to go with you, and you can't. You just can't. Or you have a responsibility. You have a job. You can't be gone 5-10 weeks a year.
Hillary looks at me and raises her eyebrows when she says 5 or 10 weeks a year.
You just can't do it. And so you do feel left out. And then it becomes a competition, right? I feel some marriages, if you can't understand that, you get jealous. Yeah.
It's a very good way.
And men don't understand that. They're just like, oh, I'm going to go do this. They don't understand that you're like jealous. You want to do something too. You want to go too. And yeah, it's interesting.
So Jen, you're sitting there kind of nodding your head. You
Kind
married
of.
into this family that had all these brothers
Yes.
who hunt together.
Yes.
And Bart has told me the story. In fact, I think he told it on the last podcast of how he took you hunting on the kind of a very
Newlyweds,
first
yeah.
get to know everybody trip was an elk hunt.
Yeah.
Was that a mistake?
It was not great. I have to put out there because I know Bart's going to listen to this and be like, you guys made it sound like you're a huntress. And I'm not. I've only killed 2 animals. So I'm not a huntress. I just picked this up. I figured it was, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
So if I want to hang out with Bart, I'm going to have to take on some of his hobbies. So that's the start of that story. But he did take me hunting in his secret, I think these boys call it honey hole or whatever. He took me to his secret spot and with his dad, and we hiked up this horrible mountain, and he kept saying, you know, drink your water slowly. And I'm like, I get angry as I'm hiking. I get hot and I get angry. And you've been with him. He hikes like a mountain lion, or I don't know. He goes super fast. So at some point I'm like, just leave me. And he did. He left me. He left me behind to get up to the top of the mountain. And when I get up there, his dad's there to greet me, and Bart is gone. Like, not only did he leave me on the mountain, but he left me. He heard elk calling and he left me. So he left me with his dad and his uncle and went hunting for the evening. So I was just hanging out at camp with his uncle, and like the food was horrible. They made ramen with chili. They cooked up ramen and then they mixed it up with chili. It was horrible. And then chili makes a bad night in the tent. It was bad. Like, it was bad.
Oh, no.
And so, yeah, that was not the best. If he really would have wanted me to hook onto it earlier, he would have made it a different trip than that. Because when I told him when I left that I did not want to have to see blood or do any of that gutting stuff. And when the animal was down and I was left with his dad, he's like, Jenny, I need you to hold back this brow flap while I cut off these horns. And so I was holding legs open and cutting. I had blood all over my new hiking boots and everything. Like, I was mad by the time and he could see the steam coming off me. So and I didn't hunt again after that for a long time. So I think you have to make it, if you want it to happen, you got to come at it at the right angle, at least for a girl like me. Maybe you're totally different.
I grew up hunting with my dad, and then kind of through the teenage years fell out of it as we all go through our phases. And then when Mike and I were dating a little bit later on into our relationship, it was like a couple nights before rifle season, and I was like, I want to go hunting. Let's go hunting. And he's kind of same thing for him. He grew up hunting and then fell out of it. And so we kind of rediscovered it together and went with my dad and had a lot of fun. So I kind of grew up with it, but hadn't, like you, I've only killed one animal and had my first harvest, but I grew up like going out in the garage, watching my dad skin a deer. Like that was like totally normal.
I thought I grew up with hunting, but my dad's hunting and Bart's hunting are two totally different things. Like like an animal would just appear on our table and it seemed like my dad only went out a couple times.
Yeah.
If Bart's not out hunting every day, he's thinking about it. He's looking at maps. He's on
God,
Hunt Talk.
yes.
It's all encompassing all the time. And so my dad's hunting that I grew up with and what Bart does is two totally different beasts.
Agreed.
So I tell guys this, and Jen's been a CPA client since Moby Dick was a minnow. And
I'm not that old.
Over the course of being a CPA, professionally, you learn a lot of dynamics of relationships because people will come into a CPA's office and tell you things, probably like you, Hillary. You probably have people tell you stuff of, I didn't need to know that.
Oh, yeah, I hear it all.
Yeah. I know something's up. When somebody, a well-respected client comes and closes the door behind them and they're fidgeting and they're like, my wife doesn't know this, but I'm like,
oh no,
I don't need to know that. And over the course of 30 years of being a CPA, you get to deal with some really weird and interesting personal dynamics, whether it's marriages
especially
or
when it comes to money, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've kind of applied a lot of what I've observed in my CPA practice to how I operate my own personal life and my life of, all right, how do I not run off the rails with my hunting life like some of these people have with whatever it is in their life. And I've concluded that as a general rule, guys are selfish and they don't even realize it.
I think that's true.
We think we're just being guys, but quite honestly, we're really selfish with our time and our money. Am I without speaking of your spouses specifically? Was there a time in your marriage where you thought this guy is so selfish?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and I think that I kind of like Jen's story, her like initiation into hunting, which she thought it was going to be, turned out to be something different. Like the article that I sent you that I had written, and. That stemmed from an incident in our marriage. The summer we got married, and we were newly married, and my husband used to go to Alaska to work. So we'd been married 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We got married, went on a honeymoon, and then he left for Alaska. He worked in Alaska, and then he worked in Russia. So he's gone about 4 to 5 months. Wow. And this is back in the late 90s. There's like no cell phones. Like he was in Russia. I would maybe get a letter if a client brought it back from there. And it was one of these things. He would call me from Anchorage. I hadn't talked to him in 3 months. Wow. He'd call me from Anchorage and say, I'm going to be home in how far is the Anchorage flight? 4 hours.
Yeah.
Pick me up. And I'd be like, all right, haven't talked to him in 4 months. Living in his parents' house, And he got home, and it just so happened he usually came home in October. Well, we know what October is in Washington State. That used to be mule deer season.
Yeah.
And his business, he worked for his parents' business. They shut the whole business down for 1 or 2 weeks in October. Man. All the guys went hunting. It was like a serious thing. Well, he got home, and he was literally home. I picked him up at 4 a.m. from the airport. That night at dinner, his cousin is texting him, when are we leaving? When are we leaving? And I'm like, when are you leaving for what? And he's like, oh, well, tomorrow's the opener of deer season.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, what? I literally just got married to him in June and he's been gone. It's October.
Whoa.
Okay?
Tell me he didn't go.
And he's in Russia, y'all. He's not like, hi, I can call him every day. I can't FaceTime him. There's none of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? And he said, he told me he wasn't going to go because I was we were at a restaurant. I flipped out because I was like, my life was flashing before my eyes. But a little bit of probably because I came from a divorced, my parents were divorced.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen like selfish behavior in marriage. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I lived it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that moment where I was like, who did I marry? Oh my God, I married my father. Oh my God, what am I doing? And he promised me he wouldn't go. And then at 4 a.m, his cousin pops his head in the room. Hey, we gotta go. And he got up and left.
No, that
And he was
a bad
gone for
choice.
10 days.
No.
No phone calls, no nothing. Now, he's going to hate me telling the story, but you can all go read it on our blog
Right,
because
so-
I wrote an entire blog
Right.
on it.
Everyone listening to this needs to go and read it because when Hillary sent it to me, I read it. It was so compelling. I was reading excerpts of it to my wife. And
there is a podcast, like you can listen to it too. If you go to that page, you can listen to me read it. So if you
what
don't
is
want to
that
read
page?
it, it's called My Husband's, The Mistress Who Stole My Husband or something like that. It's on Hunt Harvest Health under stories. You'll see it.
And what's the URL, the website?
HuntHarvestHealth.com.
.com. Okay.
Okay. So he left, and his mother, who was married to, of course, to my husband's father, who did basically the exact same thing to her all the time.
Uh-huh.
I was distraught. I mean, I couldn't function. I couldn't eat. I was like, well, what did I do? I married the wrong person. He's so selfish. And my mother-in-law told me, she said, you're just going to have to deal with it. Like, this is how they are, and they're not going to change.
Oh, that's horrible.
And I was like, but I look back on it now, like that was her reality. She was used to that because she had 6 years of marriage now, right? She
Yeah.
was where I am now. So she was like, this is how it is. Just get over it. It's not going to help for you to be all emotional about this. And he came back from that trip with his tail between his legs because he was supposed to be home in 7 days. He came home in 10 because of weather.
Man,
he
he's
got
just
stuck.
piling it on.
He got
Wowza.
stuck in the mountains in the weather. He couldn't get out. And he came home with his tail between his legs. And I mean, I was like, this is it. Like, I'm not going to live like this. I'm not going to live with someone who's this selfish. And he promised he wouldn't do it again. And okay, we went on from there. But the story of hunting now, every time he brought up the word hunting to me, it was like
Negative.
it was like fingernails on a chalkboard because it was like, it wasn't that I had, and that's what the blog talks about it. If I really think about hunting, my stepdad hunted. Like I didn't have a problem with the hunting. It was like he was leaving me for another woman. Every single time he went, it was just, he was leaving me for this thing that was way more strong than I could do. And it was like every year, and 17 years into our marriage or 15 years into our marriage, it was like every year he would come home, wouldn't talk to me about it, didn't tell me stories about it. I could care less about it. We'd fight about it. I mean, this went on for over a decade.
Wow.
And he was just like, that's it. I'm done. Like, I can't live like this anymore. And that's when I had to really sit down and be like, why do I hate hunting so much? And it wasn't the hunting. It was this one event that made me feel like he didn't care about me. And it just was like this thing that stayed in there, because it was never really addressed.
Uh-huh.
And he was so selfish. So men are selfish in a lot of ways. Every time he'd be selfish, which I would be like, you're being selfish, it would just trigger it again for me. And so once I came to the realization that those were my triggers and this was an old thing and he hadn't done anything to be a bad husband, he'd provided meat, he was a great partner. He was actually healthy, he didn't drink, he just loved to be in the mountains. Like, what is really wrong with that? So I had to come to this place where I was like, it's really not that big a deal. I need to get over this past trauma. But from that article, I get so many things from women who are where I was when I was feeling that. They feel their husband's selfish. He doesn't care about them. He just leaves them. They have young children. She's alone. And I understand it. it's a really difficult thing. And it's probably the same as somebody loved to, I don't know, rock climb or
whatever it might be,
sailboat
golf
around the
or-
world or whatever people like to do. You got to do that. But I would say in general, yes, men are sort of oblivious to the emotional impact that they have on their women.
And you can say that from a professional perspective, Hillary, because being trained in the medical profession, you realize that you're very aware that how men think and how women think.
Yeah, so men have a smaller corpus callosum between the two halves of their brain.
Oh, man.
So the two sides of their brain don't communicate as quickly as a woman's does. This is why women...
All the women are nodding their head here as Hillary's saying this.
So women can multitask. We can have the children, be on the phone, be recording a podcast, be typing something buying something on Amazon. We can do all that in 5 minutes.
See, I can't.
My husband is like, don't talk to me right now.
Yeah.
He'll be writing something or doing something, and I'll be like, oh, by the way, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, you got to stop. He can't do that. When he plays with the kids, he plays with the kids. He doesn't
enlightening.
fold laundry
Yeah.
and do dishes and mop the floor and play with the kids because that's not playing with the kids. So I'll come home. There's not a dish done. What did you do today? And he's like, I played with the kids. And I'm like, well, what else did you do? But see, I guess I can titrate it down to that. He sees it as he has a task and he does a task. And
He's really
focusing
good at
on all these other things is too much. It actually makes him scrambled and he can't function well. Women, we are just used to multitasking. Our brains are built for it. So we get so frustrated with men. Like, can't you just do more than one thing at a time?
Are you offended, Randy?
Not at all, because Kim has said the same thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, I'm talking to you. I hear some noise, but I'm busy right now. Don't talk to me. So
it is brain definitely function. Women, we have children and we raise children, and we are instinctually built to watch for danger. And that means protecting our young. So that means we are constantly taking in everything. And that means we think we can do everything. But then as we get older, we realize it's not very healthy for us to do that.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot from my husband and his smaller brain. I can't believe she just said that. Well,
sorry, Ryan.
I'm only saying that in a good way, is that not his smaller brain, but the two sides of his brain don't talk to each other. So my brain is bigger in a way, but that means I have a lot more stuff going on in there, which means I have a lot more distraction.
Okay.
Where I've learned from him that it's better to be focused and keep that focus for as long as you can until you're done with something, or focus on something that you're really good at and focus on that. Don't try to do a million different things that you're not good at. And that's what I've learned from it. But definitely men and women are biochemically different. We just see the world differently. Plus women, we're just infinitely more complicated. We have more hormone problems than y'all do.
Yeah.
Tell me about
anything to add or disagree with on that, Morgan?
No. I think
So
it's
you're
pretty
going to say,
stuff.
hey, Mike, listen to this segment.
I mean, no, he's good. I mean, honestly, like one of the big holdbacks, and we're not ready for kids, but I'm like, I don't want to have a kid. Like, I don't want to be stuck home. Like, we're not there yet. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not ready to give up that time yet and do that. And
So, Jen, your kids are almost on the other end of the pipeline here.
Yeah.
From that.
Yeah.
You've got one.
I have 2 in college now, and 1 in high school and 1 in elementary school. So I'm moving to a different
place.
I'm like in a middle weird place.
Yeah. Does it change the way that you view how your hunting husband, or is that just a maturation of the relationship, or is it?
I'm just going to sound super shallow when this is all over with, but a lot of what helped us get over my feeling yucky about him going hunting all the time was advice from you when we came in, and that was Bart would go, I'm sorry, it's true. So Bart would go to Alaska with his brother and do that dull sheep hunt, and he was gone for a week
or more.
It's heck of a hike in there, and they're just gone, and so you don't get to hear from them unless they hike up to the top of a mountain and stuff. And I was feeling pretty bitter about it, and we came into the office and talked to Randy, and he was like, I was complaining to Randy about it because he is our counselor too, not just our accountant. And he told Bart that if he couldn't afford to let me go on a vacation as well, that he probably shouldn't be doing it. And that was a turnaround. I got to go on a couple of girl vacations because he wanted to go to Alaska, and so then I got to go to Hawaii with girls and stuff. And that, it makes you feel, I don't know, more validated, like you're important as well, that you get to go do something as well. Because I was just taking care of kids. And so to get to go out and do something on my own. And honestly, I think if you can't afford, I'm not saying it has to be Hawaii or anything, but if you can't afford for your wife to go away for a little while, maybe you shouldn't go away either.
Yeah. No,
especially on a sheep hunt.
Yeah.
If you can afford a sheep hunt.
Well, his brother lives there, so it doesn't cost as much.
Never mind. Okay.
But
for me, it's time away from the family, not a monetary thing.
So this piece of advice that Jen is referring to, a little context. So Bart and Jen own a lawn care business, and I don't do lawns. I had a little lawn mowing business when I was in junior high, and I said, I will never own a lawnmower in my life.
And you haven't. Way to go. Way to stick to that.
That's awesome.
Bart and Jen have bailed me out from having to own a lawnmower. But here's how it is. Bart comes over, mows the lawn every Monday, and we talk and tell stories. I think he purposely makes mine the last house on his route.
It is, and he calls me, like, because I live like 5 minutes from you. He'll call me, be like, I'm at Randy's house, hint, hint. I could use a little help to get home earlier, hint, hint. Anyway, keep going.
So we always are talking hunting. So he tells me, yeah, I'm going to Alaska with my brother. And I knew that he'd been on a couple of these trips. And I'm thinking, well, I wonder who's going to mow my lawn.
That'd be me.
Yeah, I look, and here is Jennifer out there doing all of his lawn route.
Gosh.
So it's not bad enough that he's up there hunting. So Jennifer is out there, headphones on.
It's true.
It's 95 degrees, dusty, grass all over her. And my wife, Kim, looks out the window and says, why is Jen mowing our lawn today?
Right.
I said, because Bart's in Alaska sheep hunting. And my wife thought Bart was like the coolest dude around. She turned to me. She's like, Bart May would have his wife do that while he's hunting? I said, yeah. She's like, you need to talk to him. I'm like, well, it's my place
What am I supposed to do? Yeah.
So by coincidence, the next spring when Bart and Jan, or maybe it was in the fall, you guys came in for a year-end planning meeting and Bart's pleading poverty or whatever. I'm
Always pleading poverty.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, I've known this guy long enough. I'm going to impose myself here to try. I'm really helping a friend by giving this advice. So
It was helpful.
this is where I said, Bart, you're talking about when you get your doll sheep back from the taxidermist, you're debating, why can't I hang this in the living room? I'm like, think about this, Bart. You made your wife run your business and you spent money to go to Alaska. You're going to spend money on taxidermy. And now you're having this inner discussion about, why would my wife be upset about me hanging this doll sheep in the living room? And I'm like, all right. You're 10 years younger than me. I'm going to help you out here, pal. And he looked at me like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was clueless.
And Jen's over there like,
Yes.
thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Yes. And it wasn't that I have all the answers in the world, but I'd kind of been down a bit of that same path
I
myself.
think it's helpful for someone else, another man,
Right.
to point it out. Because if it comes from another woman, then we're just catty, mean women.
Yep.
But if it comes from another man and you say, you ought to let your wife do something nice as well if you're going to do this, or anyway, I think it helps for it to come from another man.
Yeah.
You're that man, Randy. Save us all.
Yeah, there's nothing more
Superhero.
There's nothing better than to have a man who's doing that, who people look up to, because then that makes other men realize that, oh, maybe I'm not doing that. I should be considering that and doing that. that's what I've noticed. I've noticed it's like if somebody that they look up to is doing those things and talking about those things and encouraging those things,
absolutely.
They're like, oh, well, if he can do it, I can do it, Whereas if they don't have that role model in their life, or they watch their father or whoever never give they think that's normal.
It's normal.
They don't know.
Yeah.
Randy, you're saving us all.
Yeah.
You're doing a community service. Way to go.
Well, a little bit of background to that. And when Hillary was talking about coming from a divorce situation, my parents divorced when I was 11. And
14.
My dad, everybody has their faults, but his selfishness was alcohol. And he was oblivious to what consequences it had. So in my head, I said, when I get married, divorce is not an option. It just, once you say something's not an option, it's amazing
it's off the
that
table.
if that's off the table, you figure a way to work it out. And so my hunting certainly was causing marital strife. And because I was going through this phase of, look, when we were dating, you knew we went on hunting trips and fishing trips. What? So, but I had the good fortune of, like I said, in this CPA life, you kind of become more counselor than you are tax advisor. And so I started thinking about it in a little more context of, Randy, you're kind of selfish. You might want to think about this. So I experimented with a few things and, whoa. Man, you mean all I got to do is if this rifle cost $1,000 and I budget it as a $3,000 expense and say, look, honey, this costs $1,000. Here's $2,000 more for you or whatever you want to do. All of a sudden, it wasn't that big of a deal. Or, honey, I'd really like to go to Alaska with my uncles, but I know that's going to impose on us. But what if you and Ruth, her sister, went to wherever? And we'll budget that in the family budget. All of a sudden, life is like...
It's better. Yeah.
And that's because that's consideration. It's the whole idea that you considered her feelings. That guys think we're really complicated in that sense. I don't think we're complicated. I tell my husband, just do some nice things. Yes. Be thoughtful once in a while. And when he does that, it's the small little things, having seeing that she needs that, and just the act of doing that calms women down.
Really?
For sure. See, he thinks it has to be more. It doesn't. I keep telling.
Sorry, I didn't.
I will tell men we are not that complicated. I don't want a fancy trip to Hawaii. I don't want
I do.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. But I mean, I don't need that. It's not like you need to repay me with that. But the whole fact that you had the conscious thought of offering that to me, wow, that's what really counts. And this is where I think so many men drop the ball, is that they don't even offer something to their wives. It could be something as simple as a date night. Like, hey, you know what? I realize we got these young kids and we haven't had a date in 2 years.
Yeah.
It's literally, there's couples, they never spend any time together.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I planned a date. I got a babysitter. We're going to go out Friday night. That one act alone, your wife will just be like, huh? What? You did what? What? And that is, you didn't have to spend a fancy Hawaiian vacation, but it was the thought that counts, and that taking her out on that date and being compassionate, being considerate, that's what it takes. And men just they're just busy thinking about what they're thinking about. They're not thinking about that.
Now, I'm going to feel bad for guys if they go out there and they think that they're going to offer a Hawaiian trip and a girl's not going to take it. Because any of my friends, if a man offers up a Hawaiian trip for his Alaska trip, they're going to be like, game on.
Now, I would take the Hawaiian trip.
Okay.
I have, however,
because I don't want to offer it and the girls go yes and then be like, oh, I didn't think that would happen.
Oh, yeah. Be careful. They will always take it.
I'll take it.
But it's the thought that counts. It's the thought of you even thinking that that counts, because that means you actually sat down and thought about it. You thought about your wife. Because for most guys to offer a Hawaiian vacation, that's money. That's money.
It's money.
So they have to sit down and think, well, can I afford that for one?
Right.
So they didn't just like throw that out of their head. They actually thought about it, which means they thought about you, which means they thought about your feelings. That to me is what it's the action of it.
I think being validated and
Yeah.
them understanding that like they're gone for this length of time or they want to do this, like there's no reason you shouldn't be able to go do something that you want.
Yeah.
Another thing that you do and Bart does as well is if he can get cell service, no matter where he is, Alaska, the Bridgers, wherever, he'll call me. And it's usually a surprise because when he leaves for Alaska, I think I'm not going to talk to him for a week, but he'll hike up to the top of a mountain and find some cell service and make a phone call to me. That means the world to me. I mean, that's a big deal. And I know you do it for Kim as well, but if he'll hike to the top of the mountain and just say, hey, just want to let you know, I'll be home at this time, or this is how I'm alive.
Yeah,
it means
that's
a
the big one.
big difference to me.
Yeah, that's a big one. Communication out in the, which isn't always possible, but when it is, it's
not
helpful.
always. You're right.
No. Mike was really, really terrible about communicating. We got him a sat phone and he never used it. And so his dad would be texting me and be like, I haven't heard from Mike all day. And I'd be like, yeah, no, me either. Like, I don't know what's going on. And he'd be fine, but he would just be like, oh, I'm too busy. Like, sorry, I forgot I got too busy. And so this last spring, I took myself out bear hunting.
You took yourself out.
I did. And he was nonstop texting me. And of course, it was a place, I think I had the sat phone. And he was like, be careful, be this. Like, do you know where you're going? Like, do you know where this is? Like, just, I think that changed so much for him. Like, okay, I understand why you're worried about me because, and I wouldn't text him back and he'd be like, hey, you okay? Like, I haven't heard from you in a while. And I'm like, try doing that for like 3 days. Yeah. And that's an exaggeration because he's pretty good. But like, I mean, just morning, noon, and night, like, hey, I'm alive. I didn't get attacked by a grizzly. Like, that's all we need, like, it makes you feel so much better.
I'd be shocked if I got a phone call.
What?
Yeah.
We need to talk to your husband.
Well, it's I'm not shocked. So he has the Garmin now, and I do get texts.
InReach.
Yeah.
He'll send me the like, is everything okay? I'm here, and it drops a pin.
Yep.
So like I know where he is. But I think I got trained really early on because he worked in Alaska for 7 years, and they had no phones. It was a satellite phone you could call on once every couple of weeks, and there was a delay, and you got a 2-minute call.
Oh, that's sad.
So you didn't even bother. And so I have a box of love letters.
You should get out and read them.
Yeah, they're somewhere in a box. But I don't know if women have those anymore. Like because we didn't have phones and we didn't have that. He would write me letters, and that's really special to me. But he would go to Russia then for 2 months. There's no communication. I think I got used to, and in the 90s, and we didn't have all this technology now. He would be gone. He'd say, I'm going to be gone for a week. If I don't come back in a week, give me 10 days. If I'm not back in 10 days, maybe give me 12 and then call the whoever.
Yeah.
Because it was just like you never knew what could happen. And he luckily always came home. But now if I get a call from him or he sends me a text, I'm kind of like, oh, wow. He sent me a text.
You like it. It's good.
I do like it. Yeah, but
yeah.
I'm so like, I think just used to, he's gone and he's in the backcountry. And he does do like his honey-do list. Like, I know when there's a trip coming. And he sometimes...
I laugh because it's the same at my
I haven't
house.
heard of this.
What is the list?
So he like is not a handyman.
Bart's not either.
Yeah.
Me either.
Okay. He doesn't do that, but he'll like build greenhouses and garden beds. Like he'll do it outside. But like if I said, like right now, the guy that owned our house before didn't vent this gas stove outside. So it's like we need a vent, right?
Yeah.
If I said to him, you need to go find a vent and get, he just looks at me with his eyes crossed, like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I have to hire someone to do that kind of thing. But it's like, and sometimes he doesn't even tell me when his hunts are. We're getting better about it now because the kids, it's gotten a lot better as kids. We have activities and concerts and stuff. You can't just leave and there's stuff going on. But I'm like, why is he doing all this stuff? He just starts like mowing the lawn.
Oh, gosh.
Weeding the garden. He cleans up his room. Like things are getting, well, I can tell because he starts packing. And then it's like stuff is getting done. and then he leaves.
Oh,
and
I don't
it's
get
like
that. Do you get that?
He makes sure,
organized.
he makes sure that everything's good, because it's basically his sign to me. Okay, I'm doing what I need to do, and don't bother me. Because when I get back there, I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to
things.
worry that there's something back here that's pulling me back, and that's
Gotcha.
always his thing. And that's where we've really worked on the guilt complex, because he's like, listen, I don't want to be guilted. I don't want to be back there sitting there feeling guilty that I'm here feeling, because he's like, I can't hunt. I can't do what I'm there to do if I feel that. So we've worked through that, but yeah, he's just like gets his stuff done, and then he's gone, and then he's gone. And you know, I think it's harder on my kids now. Like I'm kind of used to it, but it's harder on the girls. They're like, Dad's going hunting again. What? And I'm like, get used to it. You know? And then who do I sound like?
His mother.
Yeah,
Yes.
you do. You've become.
I
You've
totally
evolved.
sound like his mother. And I realized now what she was saying. She was just saying, like, this is going to be your future. You need to emotionally prepare yourself, young child. Like, that's what she was saying to me. You know, in my immaturity of it,
But
I
it's
was
too
like,
hard at that age to hear that, I
Yeah.
think.
yeah, well, I, of course, was like, you don't know what you're talking about, you know? And now I'm like, I get it. I totally get it. Yeah. But I guess I'm in a little different, because my husband is like a total backcountry hunter. He's 20 miles in. Like I'm concerned he wants to go. He drew a tag in Wyoming in grizzly country this year. And in Washington, there's no grizzly country. So this is his first year living here, and he's going to be hunting grizzly country. So we'll probably be having more communication. But just as long as he doesn't get eaten by a grizzly or something, then, you know, it's good. No news is good news, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, really.
Yeah.
I hate to say that.
So, Jen and Morgan, what are little things guys should be doing? I mean, you just brought up a few of them. Are there others? Because, like I said, us guys,
have a
we're
list.
focused on
Oh my
attack.
gosh, she brought a list.
Oh, you brought, okay.
I brought a
Oh,
list.
here we go.
No,
All right.
this isn't Bart's list. This is what I wrote.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, do you want to go first,
No,
Morgan?
no, you go.
Do you have
Okay.
a list too?
No.
Oh,
Do you want to write one down while I'm doing
I
mine?
didn't bring a list.
Okay, are you ready for it?
I'm
These are
ready.
tips that I think make a girl's first hunt more enjoyable.
Okay.
Okay. 1, make sure the hike is at her level.
Okay.
Don't take her on some crazy hike if
No
she's
death
not into
marches.
it. No death marches. Don't take her out on the coldest, nastiest day or the hottest, muggiest day. Like, for me, Morgan's probably more hardcore. But for me, like, I want to be comfortable.
Yeah, my wife doesn't camp. She says if God had meant for us to camp, he wouldn't have invented motels.
Campers. Yeah.
I accept that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
It's what
if
you
we're
have.
going
You work
somewhere,
with it.
we rent a cabin or stay in a motel.
Yeah.
Yep.
So bring good food and drinks. That goes back to the chili and ramen.
Yeah.
Bring
Yeah.
good food and drinks so that I'm happy. And make sure she has the right clothing. And I'm not talking about your XL hunting gear that you bought at Army Navy 20 years ago. Like, there is really nice women's hunting gear for all temperatures, for all weather, for all heights, for all sizes. She should have her own hunting gear if you want her to go hunting.
Yep.
Make it fun and know when to go home. Like, we'll be getting done and it will be getting cold, and we'll have had a good experience, but Bart just can't let it go, and we have to see if we can get one more elk in. Know when to stop, for heaven's sakes. Like, know when to call it a night. Okay, you go.
Tips to make a hunt better for women.
If you want them to start.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is going to sound terrible. I'm not the best morning person, which is hard when you're getting up early. But I'm always just like, if we can have coffee there, and like, I don't care if it's
Seafood.
those little like refrigerated, like the non-refrigerated, like half and half. Like those are like my 2 must-haves for the hike, or like the hunted. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Those are like my must-haves. I can go with anything else, but I don't know. I kind of agree. Like, you want to have good gear, and I guess like, I always get irritated when we go out and I'm like, oh, it's so pretty, it's so nice, like this and this, and Mike's like, we're not seeing a damn thing. Like, there's nothing here. And I'm like, okay, but like,
beauty
it's
around
beautiful. We made it. Like, we're gonna have
Attitude.
coffee. Like, we can just take
Keep
a
it
nap. And
positive.
he's like, let's what's over that hill? Like,
Yeah.
we need to go here. We need to go here. And so like, there are so many opportunities that we've missed because we've been moving too fast. And so just like enjoying it, taking like, I don't know, and sometimes I want to talk a little bit. Like, I mean, it is what it is. But
I did go on one hunting trip. I'll tell you about it.
Oh, yeah. No,
That makes me think of that.
yeah, I don't know. It's just like, I guess my big thing is like be patient because like he does hike faster than I do. Like it's, you know, he wants to go further. I'm like, we went 10 miles. Like that's a lot. And he's like, oh, well, I went 15 the other day. Like this, you know, I was all the way over here.
This isn't even a workout for
I know,
me.
right?
I didn't even break a sweat. And you're like,
just like, and just understanding, you know, I get frustrated too at times. Like I'm like, my big thing is like, can we not go through deadfall? I hate deadfall. And like, you know, like the one, that's where we end up going most of the time, but not by choice, but I don't know, just being patient. That's huge. You know, I don't know. I don't like it when anyone, I don't think, but when you get frustrated and short and then you're irritated or tired, it just makes it 10 times worse. So just don't have like the highest expectations for the outcome and just enjoy the experience.
The process.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Randy? Were those solid? No, not really.
Those are really, really good pieces of advice. Every time we drive through the Madison Valley, Kim looks out the window and points up above Wall Creek and says, remember the time I sat down on the rock there and said, you're coming to get me because I am not going any further. And I got the truck stuck. I said, you stay here. I'll go down and get the truck. I got stuck trying to get up there to where she was at. And she saw me down there stuck, so she started walking down the hill, and she's like, I am never doing this again.
Yeah, you could ruin the whole thing for a long time if you don't make it a good experience.
I ruined her desire to elk hunt that day because I was just convinced the elk was just over the next ridge, you know, and it was cold, it was miserable, the snow was deep, and I'm taking big, long strides, and Kim is way shorter than I am, shorter legs, and for her to walk through 20 inches of snow is way harder than me. It's hard for me, but even harder for her. And she will remind me of that all the time. So when you guys were saying that, I'm like, been there, done that.
I think one thing that irritates me, and it's so stupid and irrational, but like he'll just like get way ahead of me and like
makes you grumpy.
Not turn around, and I'm like, what? Like I'm right here. Like I could have fallen down this mountain and you wouldn't have seen it. So like, but then I also get irritated when he stops and like turns around. I'm like, what? I'm like not going fast enough. Like I don't know. You can't win with
it's
me.
that women brain thing again.
We're complicated. You can't do anything
We
right.
have a million thoughts about what he's not doing, what he should be doing, what he is doing.
What else is on your list, Jen?
I think if your wife didn't hunt before she met you, your wife or your girlfriend, and she's starting hunting so that she can spend more time with you, you should think twice about getting hunting boots or gear or guns or anything for birthday presents.
Yeah.
I've had it for several birthdays. He's never learned. In fact, I think for my 40th birthday, that's when I got my 6.5 Creedmoor, some long range gun. It's beautiful.
Don't buy
I want sparkly shoes.
Yeah. Guys, I said this on the last podcast. Do not buy a rifle for yourself and call it your wife's birthday present.
I have never killed an animal with it. Everyone in my family has but me, but it was my birthday present.
That's so stupid,
dumb.
Bart.
Thank you.
I'm going to call him when we get
Good.
done here. I
I hope
thought
so.
he knew better than that. That is, if you are listening to this and you think that gifting of hunting and fishing gear is an appropriate gift for your spouse, your wife or girlfriend, you are an idiot. You are headed down.
Poor Marty's going to be dying.
When they were on the Titanic and they said, "Hey, there's an iceberg straight ahead," that's the path you are taking.
It's more of a birthday present for you, honestly.
It is. Don't
For me,
and it's
to me
got to
it
be almost insulting to the women to act like, "Oh, I'm supposed
I
to."
stood there on my 40th birthday with my 6.5 Creedmoor so he could post it on Facebook or whatever and be like, "Look at my wife that hunts," but inside I was going, "Sparkly shoes anywhere?
Yeah.
Something fun?
spa?
Something?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, stay away from that. Anniversaries and that's not the time for hunting clothes.
Yeah. I agree. 100%.
So, yeah.
And not every vacation needs to be hunting related.
For
My
sure.
husband can tie. We could go to Hawaii to go axis deer hunting.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
That's not
and I'm
good.
like, yeah, that's fun, but we could also go there to relax.
We could just
and,
lay on the
just be on the
beach.
beach. Exactly.
We could get a tan.
Yeah.
Do you want another?
This is good stuff. This is what we're here to. We're here to save marriages.
This is 23 years of pain. I'm just kidding.
No. And it's not like we are in an office where somebody is laying on a couch confessing to their shrink. We're all just sitting here being adults of this is serious business, folks. I hope you're paying attention because Jen is laying down some nuggets
She
here.
has a list over
There's going to be
there.
hate mail that comes in. Are you
It's all
prepared for it?
right.
They're going
I
to be like,
get
that
hate mail all
Jennifer
the
May.
time. Take a number and stand in line.
Oh, good. So this is my last one. This is my last rant. So if you want to start your wife on bow hunting, and I guess it could go for rifles as well, you don't go and have her go to the bow shop and pull back a bow that's already set at like 60 pounds or whatever. If you want to get her into bow hunting, you get a bow that's for her.
Right.
You make sure that it's so that she can pull it back and not feel like a failure in front of, almost always when you go to a bow shop, it's like
Bunch of
20
guys.
men and no women.
Right.
So
Bunch
you
of
don't want to
muscle
stand there
heads.
and try to pull back 50 pounds while everyone watches you not do it.
Right.
So you get a bow set up for her that she can pull back, and that you can, even if you had to buy her another bow later because she's grown out of that bow, who cares? You
Right.
just gained a hunting buddy. That's
There you
always
go.
going to be there with you. So don't start her off on somebody's bow that's already set for 60 pounds and then have her feel bad when she can't pull it back. Like start with something that she can pull back.
Or a rifle that doesn't fit, or a shotgun that doesn't
Exactly.
fit. Or, yeah.
All that. I just think you have to, that's from my
Yeah.
bad perspective.
Very often, Jen, that's a function of guys being tightwads.
Oh, really? My husband wouldn't pay 10 cents for cheese on a cheeseburger.
Right.
So,
No.
yeah.
Guys are tightwads until it comes to their gear and their trips. Is that fair
I
statement?
would say that's fair.
Oh, my husband will admit it. He's a total cheapskate. You know, he's a public land hunter. He's never done
Paid
a
for a
private
hunt,
hunt,
yeah.
and he's never paid for a hunt. I didn't realize how much gear was until I got into the hunting industry, and I started going to shows, and I started like, how much is this Sitka gear? Like, what is this? Like, and then you realize it's he'll spend money. He spends money on what he does, and this Cabela's card. I've had to take it away a few times. But you know, it's for his his lifestyle, his passion.
Yeah.
He needs it.
Right.
But
Mike calls it an investment.
but yeah, it's
What a good
and I
way to
think
say
that's
that.
where I also when I'm listening to you say like, okay, I spend $2,000 on my trip. I let my wife spend $4,000 or something like. Yeah, that is a new thing for us because
Really?
I'm pretty sure if Ryan came to me and was like, I'm going to spend $2,000 on a trip, and I said, and in the past, maybe not now because he's heard you, he's listening.
See, you're saving marriages.
He's like, okay, I see. And honestly, my husband is like, never, ever has he ever told me not to do anything or go anywhere. I mean, I'm pretty independent. We are very independent of each other. Like if I say I'm going to go to Europe, I'm going to go to Turkey, I'm going to go to Mexico. I just went.
Right.
He's like, great. Now, I don't always tell him how much it costs, but I usually always tie it in with work.
There you go.
There you go.
And so I justify that I'm making money, therefore I can go, which kind of sucks because do I always have to work to go on a trip? Because he's not working, he's not making money while he's doing it, but he would say he's getting meat, right? But we can argue
Providing.
about that too, right? Okay.
Is that
But,
okay?
yeah. So I just feel like we have never been at that place where he would say, okay, I'm going to give this to you. In the past, I would be like, okay, well then I'm going to go buy a $2,000, I don't know, whatever I want to buy, a piece of furniture. And he'd be like, hell no, you're not. And I'd be like, well, why not? We don't have that kind of money. And I'm like,
We don't?
what are you talking about? We don't have that kind of money. So that's been an interesting thing is that he is very cheap when it comes to a lot of things. He's super simple, super cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have seen his hair, right? He won't even cut his
No.
hair because
Right.
he's too cheap. But no, I'm just kidding. His hair's really long. And I'm always like, are you going to cut that? He's like, nope. His beard too. But it's like, I think that the whole idea of, what we're spending our money on and how do we justify how important it is, that is, I think, that's probably your, like you said, accountant, like, money's got to be one of the top reasons
Huge.
people like I know in medicine it's usually sex is on the top, money, and boy, a lot of people lie to each other. They just don't even tell each other. Marriages, they don't even tell each other what they spend money on or what they're doing. There's like all kinds of like things we weave around, especially around money.
Yeah.
And I see that in healthcare because people don't want to spend. Oh, my husband would never let me spend that money on my healthcare. And I'm like,
Whoa.
what does your husband spend money on? And my husband would never let me buy organic food. It's too expensive. I mean, I've heard these things from people.
Really?
Yeah. Or my wife would never cook that food for me because, she shops and she's not going to spend the money on that food. That kind of stuff, So money is very integral in like everything, people's health care, people's hobbies, relationships. I mean, it's it's kind of.
Maybe that's where I've had a bit of a benefit because when you're someone's CPA,
you get to see the inside.
right, you get to see them financially naked.
Yeah.
You do, for sure.
Yeah, and
You know everything.
Yeah, and it's a very sensitive place to be entering someone's relationship when if you read most of the surveys, CPAs are usually a business owner's most trusted advisor, more so than their attorney or investment advisor or whatever. So they're coming to you with some really sensitive issues. And when you say that, Hillary, about finances, it's really a hard it is the crux of so many problems.
Yep.
Whether it's living beyond lifestyles or selfishness of, well, this is my money, but that's our money. There are so many discussions, debates, arguments about that, not just in the hunting world, but elsewhere. But taking that and applying it to marital strife resulting of hunting, a big part of it, just like the cross-section of everything else in relationships. If money is a big issue, if someone has a travel habit or whatever habit, if you have a hunting habit, money enters in probably the same percentage of those discussions or problems. So if you're listening, folks, I'm not making it up, like I said on the last podcast, that what you budget for hunting is not the true budget. Gear and trips and vacation time, you need to budget equal or more for the spouse or for the family. Otherwise, you are just being really damn selfish. I don't know how else to say it.
I love you, Randy. You're awesome.
I think it was a big marriage turner for us. I think it was hard for Bart to hear at first, but I think if the men out there will listen to you, I think it will change the way their wives feel about them going out hunting.
Yeah.
Because there's no amount of money in my mind that's worth fighting and arguing about. Or know in my heart that I'm really being selfish, but yet feeling guilty. Well, if you want to get rid of the guilt, don't be selfish.
Yep, exactly.
If
you're feeling guilty, there's a reason you're feeling guilty.
Right.
Something's not right.
And so when the three of you all have things you probably go and do with yourself, with family, with whatever, just, hey, this is my time to go do something. Kim does that a lot. Her and her family or her sister, she goes, whatever. We have a rule that when she comes back, I don't look at the credit card and say, well, what was this for? What did this cost? No.
That's because you trust each other, though. You trust her not to go hog wild, and she trusts you as well. And I think Bart and I finally got to a place of the same thing where you've gotten to a point where they're going to go and have a good time, but they're not going to be crazy with the money. Like, Bart doesn't even know where his checking accounts are. Like, he literally doesn't know where the money is. So if I wanted to be horrible, I could, right? Yeah. But he trusts me, and I trust him as well. Like, he'll mention to me, he'll be like, nice shoes. But he doesn't say, you got another pair of shoes, or I noticed you not bought another. So he doesn't let me know. I mean, he's not mean about it. He lets me know that he's noticed that I bought something new, but I never get any trouble about it because he trusts me not to go overboard on anything. And I think you have to get to a point where you trust each other. I trust him not to go overboard on hunting and hunting expenses. And
because when we first were married, I was so terrible about that. The part of my come to Jesus events were related to the tightwad accountant saying, oh, what those shoes cost.
Yeah, you can't do that.
What I know now, if I could go back in time, I would be there with a big hammer hitting myself saying, you idiot,
Randy.
what are you saying? Are
Stop.
you trying to ruin your relationship by saying something that's stupid?
It's fixable. If they've done it, it's fixable.
I really feel that it's hard in different stages of your life. Like my husband now is such a different guy than when we got married. I mean, his emotional capacity to listen, to understand, to see his faults is so much better then 20 years ago, we were fighting about these things and he would just leave. Like, I'm not going to deal with this. And he would just leave, and it's so different now. So I feel like, and maybe that's just 20 years of working on it and figuring it out. Because, nobody stays married for 20 years without a whole lot of trauma going on, figuring things out. And we've just figured this out. And now I feel like we're getting to a place, and it's still, there's still things, but I feel like he is more emotionally aware of the impact that he has by what he does, like what he says to me, or when he's going hunting, or his just consideration. Like, I feel like he has more emotional awareness of that, and maybe the young guys just don't have that yet.
Okay, Morgan, you have the young guy. Tell us.
But maybe they do. Like, I don't know, because I also know that my husband came from a family where this is men are men, and this is what men do, and men are like this, so get used to it. Men do this kind of thing. Get used to it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to get used to it. Like, this is not what I'm going to live with. And I pushed the button way, way too many times. Unfortunately, he's super patient. That's what he got out of his family life, was patience is a virtue, and he's really good at that. So he's had patience with me, but we've emotionally grown into that now, where it's like communication about it is way more important than hiding it and shoving it under the rug and thinking it'll just go away. Like, my husband will just change. He'll just figure it out. I don't need to, or I'm going to force him to be somebody he's not, and I'm going to get mad at him, and I'm going to tell him who he needs to be and point my finger at him. That doesn't work either. But it's like when both parties realize how actual active communication can solve so many problems. And part of that is this realization of, oh, I'm spending all this money. Maybe I should spend this money for you too. That, again, consideration. That just takes emotional awareness. And that's something men really have to work on. Like, it doesn't come to you guys easily. I think you have to work on it. And I kudos to my husband, because he's worked on that. He's, and I think that's the big piece of it.
Yeah. Well, Morgan, you and Mike you've been in it 3 years.
We've been in it 3 years. And he is so great about so many things, but he's still kind of at that, and he's going to hate me for saying this, but kind of narrow-minded phase of babe, it's 3 months out of the year. It's not that big of a deal. If I ask him to go to dinner on a Friday night and he's planning on going hunting, it's like, babe, why did you do that to me? I wanted to be gone. And God forbid there'd be a family wedding, around that time. My sister's getting married next September. I don't remember the date for sure. No. And he is if you are looking into getting a serious relationship with someone that's hunting, you're going to be going to a lot of these events by yourself, or I've just gotten very and I don't want him there if he doesn't want to be there either. You know what I mean? Because it's not fun having them there. But that for me for a while was just are you serious? This is family. This is a once in a lifetime. And he's like, the rut happens once in a lifetime. How do you not understand this?
Once in a lifetime.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Give me a break.
I know. And then part of it is too, I can kind of see where he's coming from now too, because last year I finally got to see the rut with bow season. So I'm kind of okay, I get it. You want to be out there, but still part of me is yeah, but families, families are really important too. So that's something that we kind of are still kind of navigating through ourselves. But he listens now, and he's always listened, but he's, very good about validating and understanding why I feel upset a certain way, but still it's hunting season's only 3 months a year.
But still, you'll be going to the wedding by yourself.
Probably.
Hunting season gets longer and longer. When I was married, it was 2 weeks in October. Now it is August, September, October, November. Oh, now there's Coos deer, thanks to Randy and Brian Call in January. So it's
spring bear,
turkeys. Spring bear,
spring
May.
bear.
Let's not forget May for spring bear.
No, there's a lot.
Yeah, so it's New Zealand is this year, I think. It's June.
Randy's just sitting next squirming.
But I'm also on the other end of this. 20 years ago, I would have been losing it. There's no way. And now it's just okay, if that's what you got to do, and we work around it. But what is that? What is it with guys? They're just
we're trainable, but we come like a square shape. So through the course of the relationship, you have to use tools to round off the edges and form it the way you want it. I tell Kim that I am happily married for the first and last time because
me too, man.
the retraining process,
Never.
No.
someone would die, either me or the person in charge of training.
Yeah, I couldn't do it again.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
If Bart dies, call me single. I'm going to join those old lady clubs where they all wear red and purple hats, and I'm just going to hang.
Yeah.
I'm going to,
cruises.
I am moving to Hawaii,
See?
and I'm going to wear that smock and paint
And
pictures on the beach.
It's not worth retraining another one. I'm not doing it.
I'm
To the point in my career, marriage, whatever you want to call it, Morgan was talking about the third year. The third year in my marriage, we had just moved to Montana. We'd been here about a year. And it was my dream to live in Montana because of the hunting and fishing. And it was really creating a lot of problems. And I got a really good piece of advice at that point in my life I can't even remember who gave it to me, but it's the one I've become known for saying is I started focusing on peace, not justice. Because when you focus on justice, so if you go to court, right, you want to defend yourself. That's justice. Well, if you're focused on peace, you're not focused on who's right or who's wrong. You're focused on how do we solve the issue. And it's a really cute phrase to say, be concerned about peace, not justice. But it was at that point in my life, I think my wife would agree, where I started being a little more reflective about, well, what's causing the problem here? What am I doing? That because I married this really smart woman who's sane, who's rational, but yet we're fighting and arguing about certain things at certain times of the year. And over the course of time, not vesting all my energy in defending my position and spending more of that energy thinking about just the whole circumstance. It's like, oh, maybe I should hand her the calendar and say, you fill in the family time first, and I'll fill in any hunting around that. Oh, all of a sudden it's like, guess what, Randy? Out of 10 mistakes, you've finally come up with one that works. Do this every year. So my wife controls the calendar when it's not hunting season.
But she's also aware of when hunting season is and gives you that time.
Right. So she would never
she's a
be on
smart
this
lady.
podcast. I've offered for her to be on this podcast, but she said no. We would be divorced. So I do think, this is just my observation, that by me showing the consideration that you get the calendar the rest of the year, she does just what you said, Jenna. Look,
She's respectful.
if he's willing to do that, the last thing I'm going to do is say, oh, guess what? We're going on a vacation in the middle of the elk rut. She
won't do that.
So it was that process there that put me on the path of the straight and narrow, if you want to call it that, or put me on this path where I can hunt 5 months out of the year with still some, everybody who's been married very long, you try to paint the outside as though everything's just...
Always, everyone does.
Yeah. Oh, it's perfect.
like your Christmas
here.
card.
Yeah. Whereas along the way, there's bumps and bruises and hurt feelings and, old wounds get
Reopened, festered, yep.
I don't care. Even after 30 years, we have a lot fewer of those, but we still have those days where I'll say something stupid because I'm tired and I'm wore out or I'm stressed. And she's like, really, huh? That's when do you guys have a statement where this is my way of telling you, pal, you've crossed it. You've pooped your deck here. And at my house, it's really. When I hear, oh, really? It's like, I have
trouble.
said or done something that is going to cost me.
Do you have one, Morgan?
I'll be honest, I get kind of passive aggressive when he does something that like really irks me or kind of says something. I just get kind of quiet and like,
Ooh, that's
I'm
a
not gonna
silence.
Yeah.
I think, guys, if you're listening, if there's silence, there's a problem.
especially in our house.
I'm definitely. I'm a more of a passive aggressive too, where I get silent and I get angry.
Yep.
And I'll do things like the dishes that he didn't do. Or I'll
Angrily.
things
Vacuuming
that
angrily.
he's sitting there watching me, but I sometimes don't even know if he's paying attention to that. Like, I think it's working, but I will get silent and I will just kind of withdraw.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
It's funny, when I was younger, I was kind of taught, I learned more to kind of fight for what I wanted. Ryan grew up in a household where they really didn't talk about feelings a lot. And so when he married me, I was like, just let me vomit my feelings all over you all the time. And he'd be like, I don't know what to do with all this. And we would fight, and he would literally just turn around and walk out of the house and drive away. And that would trigger me to no end. Somebody walking away from me when I was fighting with them. Because I was like, let's fight and get it out. Like, let's communicate, right? Which probably was very one-sided. Let me communicate at you what you're doing wrong, which he doesn't like. He still doesn't like to this day. If it's all about, this is what I think I've learned as a woman, is that we are much more emotional creatures, and we do say a lot of stupid things too that we don't always mean. And sometimes the way we say it, what Ryan will say to me, and I don't even realize I'm doing this, but what he will say to me is, do you hear how you're talking to me? We'll be fighting, and he'll just say, do you hear how you're talking to me?
Yeah.
We're like, what do you mean? What am I talking to you about? And he's like, do you hear that? And if my daughter's around, my older daughter, she's around, he'll say, do you hear how mom's talking to me? And she'll go, yeah. And I'll be like, what are you talking? But, if I listen to that, it's that tone of me mad, frustrated. But then again, I also, the way I am, as I'm a passionate person. Like, you asked me about my podcast, what do you cut out more? Me talking mainly is what I cut out, because sometimes I just get on these rants. I like to start talking. I get excited. I get passionate. And then I listen back to it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why would I? Oh yeah, turn that off, And I feel that I get them confused sometimes. So I'm really passionate about something. I really want to talk about it. I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I want to talk about it. But when I also get mad and angry, I can be the same way, where I'm like, okay, I'm really mad and angry. So I think sometimes he gets confused. He doesn't know if I'm mad at him or if I'm just excited about something. So as I've gotten older, I now preface things like, okay, don't take this personally. I'm just going to cry. I'll just start crying. And he's like, okay. Because before, like, I might get mad, I'd just start crying. And then he's like, great, what are you crying about now? Like, what did I do now? And now I want to say, like, it's not your fault. I'm not, like, mad at you. I just am frustrated. Something's going on. And it's the way that I talk, and it's the way that I approach it makes all the difference. If I go straight at him, like, you are he will back off. He will turn out of the room. He'll drive away in that car. He will not interact with me. And that makes me, he knows that makes me madder than anything. But if I preface it like, I really want to talk about this. We really need to talk about this. I need to get this off my chest. This is how I feel. This is how I feel about this situation. Then we can talk about it, because he doesn't want to, just like I don't want to be like jumped on. He doesn't want to be jumped on. And that is really hard. I feel for women, I feel that we just have this thing where we want to get it out there.
Get it out now.
And men are a little bit more like, what are you doing? Or they're like, don't tell me what to do. And it's like, I'm not telling you what to do. I just, the communication style. So as we've gotten older, I've learned what my triggers are. I've learned what his are. And I tried to preface things so that we can actually have an active discussion. Because the older you get, you realize fighting doesn't really get you anywhere. It's peace over justice. Like, justice gets you nowhere. You go to bed upset. You don't eat for a day. You cry over nothing. Your kids are affected. And then you're like, what are we even fighting about? So for me, it's like, if you can keep that peace, you have to learn how to talk to your partner in the way that they will respond to you. Otherwise, they're just going to be mad. I don't know.
Jen and Morgan are over there nodding their heads. They're rocking in their chairs. They're nodding their heads in such affirmative response.
I'm conscious of it. You've probably had moments like that where you yelled at one of your kids, you said something to them because you're tired and frustrated, they won't go to bed or whatever, and then you walk away and you're like, did I just say that to them?
I think everybody does that.
I just said that to them? Like, I swore I would never do that. So I'm at this point now in my life where I'll turn around and I'll go back to my daughter and I'll say, I'm really sorry I said that to you. I didn't mean to say that to you. I'm just tired. Forgive me. I don't want to like traumatize you with this one. Because, you know, everybody's going to have a mommy complex when they grow up. They never have a daddy complex. It's always a mom screwed them up complex. So I want them to know that I'm aware of what I did wrong. I'm aware that I said that wrong. And that's where I'm trying to get in my marriage too. Like, I'm aware that I have faults and I'm aware that I talk ways you don't like. But if I can get better at that, I actually get more out of it. The communication is better. But Jen's over there. What's that look for, Jen?
I agree with all of it.
Yeah.
I think you get better at talking to each other and you know how.
Yeah.
And just being respectful of each other.
I agree with it.
And some people, I see this just in work, and you might see this too. If you work in any customer service business, some people like to fight.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
They get a dopamine.
I do like to fight.
They get a dopamine hit from it.
I like to fight.
Yeah.
Bart and I bicker. You've been with us. We like to bicker. I think people who pretend like they never fight, they're just living in a fantasy land.
Well,
They're likely to get divorced.
yeah,
Bart and I bicker all the time. It's how we resolve everything. We bicker.
But I think there are some people who would rather fight than breathe.
No, I don't like to fight.
Yeah, it's like you get a rush from it. It's the dopamine hit. People like real fighting, like where every day there's like some new drama. It's like a soap opera.
Makes me feel sick.
You know, and then they're upset, and then they make up, and then it's those couples you hear about where you're like,
That's why
oh,
Facebook
she's
is
back,
so popular.
and you're like, oh, what? You know, yeah, it's that's unhealthy too. And I feel like so much of the media and all this is what people are seeing. They think their relationships aren't exciting if they're not having like all this turmoil all the time. It's like,
I'm grateful for that.
No, I don't need any of
the
that.
older you get, it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Who has the energy for that?
So, most every hunter who comes and asks me or emails me says, there's this trade-off between time and money. How do you balance? You either have more time and less money for you and your family, or you have more money and less time. Or did I say it the same way both times?
No,
Anyhow.
you said it.
Anyhow,
said it right.
it's a trade-off of one or the other. And a lot of times the conflicts that I'm hearing about are getting asked for advice, which I always tell people the advice you're getting from me is probably worth what you paid for it. So take it with a grain of salt. In your relationships, or if you don't want to say it, but is it a competition for time more than it is money, or?
When you're newlyweds, when you're just forming your finances and stuff, I think it's because you know you can't afford to go on a trip to Hawaii. I think it's more about time. If he gets 3 days out hunting, you should get at least a few hours out doing things by yourself. So I think at that it's about time. But as you know, as they get more money figured out and get more financially stable, then you do see like Bart used to wear clothes from Army, Navy. Like his hunting gear was not top of the line.
Yeah.
But then as you see them spending a little bit more on their hunting, I think at least I, in my shallow ways, feel like maybe I deserve a little bit of that to go towards myself as well. So I think that kind of flip-flops depending on where you are in your marriage. Most newlyweds don't have a ton of money to spend on Sitka gear or whatever it is, whatever gear it is. I know there's a million brands that cost, all different amounts of money, but I think that kind of changes depending on where you are in your marriage.
And for us, hunting is like a big priority. Like that's one of the things we do the most together. So for us, that is where we prioritize a lot of our funds.
Yeah,
exactly. And so like we run into the problem of you got a new bow, so it means it's time for me to get a new bow. So balancing that. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I just don't want it to cause financial problems. Like as long as it doesn't affect us, we can pay all our bills and like whatever, because chances are I'm going to be out there with you too. But I also like, I don't want, I have a hard time if you want to spend all your vacation, on that. And, that takes away from going to a family wedding or doing something together. Like I want there to be an equal balance. And That's why I want. Yeah.
If I've got a piece of advice for Mike, he better go to your sister's
I
wedding.
know.
That's the
We'll check in
second
with
time
him.
this has come up. Mike Mulligan, if you are listening to this and you cannot carve away a few days of your elk season,
Oh, he's not going to like you.
I don't
think he
care.
will.
I'm just telling you,
he's
Mike.
gonna-
My husband has never gone to a family function in September.
That makes
or
me feel a little
October,
better.
Ever in 23 years. I'm
Oh, right.
Maybe-
He's pursing his lips.
maybe I'm wrong, Ryan, and you can remind me of it. But my brother just got married in September in Colorado. He didn't go, and nobody expects him to come.
Yeah.
See, that's
Everybody knows he's not going to be there.
See, my family's like, oh.
In the
Mike's
beginning, I
coming.
was really hurt. I had a really hard time. Actually, for a lot of years, I knew people that never met my husband because they thought he was a fake. They thought it was a made-up husband.
Oh, that's funny.
Because he was never at events.
That's funny.
He
How
was
long was
never
it
at
before you
functions.
met my wife, Jen?
A long time. A really long
people
time.
see Kim and I on the street and they're like, "You are married," is what they say. So when you were saying that, Hillary, I'm like, "Oh, that's so funny."
It's but I just, if somebody plans something in September,
It's just not going to happen.
he's not going to be there. And you know what? Like, honestly, I don't want him there
Well, exactly.
because he is going to be a crank. He's going to be like, I could be hunting right now. And you know what? I've just gotten to the point where it's okay. He's happy where he is. I'm happy where I am. I would love, Ryan, if you're listening, for him to be around more at those events, like weddings and stuff. It's important, but he has his things. And I don't know, it's probably not great advice for all the newlyweds.
no, but it's true.
But
Like,
it's
I don't
just
know.
kind of how it is. It's
I'll
reality.
admit that if I the times I have went somewhere because I said, you know what, I don't want to be the selfish guy. I was that, and I'm trying to, I'm in a 12-step program here. I'm on my way. I will admit to, even if at the event I put on the good smile, I did have this resentment, and it would squeak out because, I don't like to eat at the Olive Garden. What the hell are we going to Olive Garden for? It's like, Randy, why did you have to say that? You just ruined the whole day. Why? Because I had this resentment that I wasn't out hunting that
And
day.
now you have to eat at the Olive Garden.
Yeah, and now I've dug a really deep hole. I said something that she will pull out of the
10
quiver.
years later, it's gonna come out.
Yeah,
Yes.
10, 12 years from now. I'm going to end up eating at Olive Garden anyhow because that's where she wants to eat. And I've just ruined 2 or 3 days away from...
And by darn, she should get to eat at Olive Garden if she wants to.
Exactly.
You can eat at Dairy Queen any day of the week.
I know. So now I
Olive
said-
Garden should be what it is.
Yeah. So, it's... You end up in those
Peace, not
situations
justice.
of... the guys try not to be resentful, but we are.
And you can tell. I mean, fake it all you want.
You could tell.
I can tell. I'm just like, are you having fun? Yeah, sure. It's like, just...
And
it's funner for you to be having fun and me to be having fun.
Yeah. I think over time, our relationship has got to the point where Kim says, I know you don't like doing that, so I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
I love you, honey. What can I do for you
Thank
today?
you.
That's right.
Why don't you stay an extra day or whatever it is? And I don't know, maybe it just, if I knew in my second year of marriage what I know in my 30th year
Wouldn't
of
things
marriage,
be magical?
the number of bumps in the road would have been so smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works, though, darn it. We all have to
I
go
know.
through that rocky path to get
Exactly.
to where we are. And
Right.
anyone who says that they didn't, they're lying.
Yeah, they're lying.
I'm just kidding. Maybe some did.
No.
I don't even know.
I think the
Well,
first 6
50%
months,
of marriages don't last.
Yeah.
So,
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
50?
It might be more
Wow.
than 50. It might be 60.
See,
or
so they are
something.
lying. Those Facebook pictures where they all look happy, they're all lies.
Yeah. It's all, it's,
I don't know,
it's
I'm not on
hard.
Facebook.
Marriage is, I put it this way. Your children are like your children. We gave birth to our children. Our husbands didn't. But, you love your children. It's like unconditional love.
Right.
They would have to do something really bad.
Really bad.
Really bad.
Yeah.
And even if they did something really
I'd still
bad,
probably forgive
you're
them,
still
darn
going to
it.
love them
Yeah.
and love them. And your parents are your parents. You may not, your family is your family. You're born into it. Maybe you get along with them, maybe you don't. But, your parents still love your parents. Your spouse,
Yeah.
they're not blood. You made that, you chose that relationship. And you really got to work at it. I think your marriage is the hardest relationship you will ever have in your life.
Yep.
And I say that coming from I have fairly functional parents. The relationships with my parents, I have good relationships with them. I have children, so I come from a fairly healthy family. Some people would say I'm wrong. Maybe the worst relationship they've ever had is their mom. I don't know. But as a marriage, like that's a relationship you chose, and so you could take it or leave it. I guess you could leave it if you wanted to. It's not like your children. You're just going to walk out on your children, right? But and that's why I think it's so difficult, is because you have to do so much compromise and you have to do work. Mm-hmm. And if you grow as a human being in the many years that you have on this planet, if you assume you're going to stay with one person, which is kind of weird in itself if you think about it, like a whole lifetime with one person, you really got to do work. And that means you got to do work on yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That person needs to do work on themselves. You can't change them. They need to want to change for you. They want to do these things. They want to implement these things like you're talking about. So I think that's why marriage is difficult. That's why most people don't make it.
Yeah.
It's a hard relationship to navigate.
Yeah.
It's the little things you don't expect to, I don't know. It's the little day-to-day things.
You say the little things you don't expect that make it better or create the problems?
No, marriage is great, but I think, you go into it and you kind of have these rose-colored glasses, like, oh yeah, we just got married, like everything's great.
Wonderful.
Yeah, like you're newlyweds, and I don't know, the first 6 months of our marriage was rough. I think we were both just like, holy crap, we signed up for
off.
this. Right. I don't know. It's just the coming home from work tired and, treating each other like you did when you were dating and being excited to see them and cherishing those little moments. And, you just, those little things, you just
Takes
stop.
work.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. When you go from spending every night with them from 2 nights a week,
And it takes, this is not a marriage, how to keep your marriage going, huh? This was supposed to be hunting marriage. But, Bart does all sorts of quirky things. He pretends I'll be at church and he'll come up to me and be like, is your husband coming to sit by you? If not, can I sit by you? He still flirts with me like he would when we were dating. And that takes work as well.
Yeah,
you have to
absolutely.
keep that going or it's just flat. So I don't know. He keeps flirting with me. It's pretty sweet.
Well, that's good. That's why.
Do you still flirt with your wife?
Always. You should
See?
you should see our text messages. She's gonna hate me.
We won't tell her. Nobody tell her.
She sends me the most flirtatious, suggestive text messages. I'll be driving down the road and I'll look at it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope the camera guys don't see this.
See, that's awesome though.
That is good.
And it's part of it keeps it all going.
And
I'm glad you confessed that.
So sometimes I can't get a call to go through, but I can get a text message to go through.
Yeah.
And there's certain code words that we have. And I'll just put that code word in and hit send.
See?
And I'll sit there until a text comes back because I know it's coming back. And so I think over time you develop these kind of
You do.
places of, you go through the honeymoon phase and then you go through the selfishness.
phase, yeah.
This is my life and you're going to just have to figure it out, blah, 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 to the, it doesn't have to be this way. There's a lot of places where, we get along 99% of the time. Why are we going to let the 1%
Ruin
get
it
in the
all.
way of having a pleasurable relationship? Because let's face it, this is who you spend. Maybe you spend more time with your coworkers. I do.
You probably do, yeah.
But you can tell them, you know what, stick it in your ear or go clean the bathroom.
You can't say that to your wife unless you want to be poisoned later.
Exactly. There's consequences of being impulsive in your responses with your spouse.
Your toothbrush could take a dip in the toilet without you knowing. There's consequences.
Really?
See?
Are you saying that?
No, I've never done that. I'm a really nice girl. I would never do that. I'm just saying I've heard of it.
Oh, okay.
I've never done
one
that.
thing Ryan started doing years ago was if he didn't text or send anything, I always got a picture. He always picked wildflowers or sagebrush, and he would just send a picture of a bouquet of flowers.
Oh, that's sweet.
Then when he got on Instagram, because, he hated social media, and I talked him into starting an Instagram page. So then he'd do this thing. If he could get on Instagram, he would just post a picture of him with a bouquet of flowers on an Instagram. And that was his, that was like his thing. Like, I do this. And then all his buddies started doing it. He's like, does this actually work? And he's like, yeah, it kind of does.
It kind of does. Works out for me.
But those little things are, like I said, I guess in the beginning, the little things make all the difference.
Not even just in the beginning, even in the middle or wherever you are, I think it makes all the difference.
What do you, when you see like old couples that are just so cute and they're just so into each other and just, that's what everybody wants to be like. Nobody wants to be the old curmudgeon couple that hates each other, that sits at the table and looks at each other like, I should have killed you 30 years ago. Like, nobody wants that kind of relationship, So if you want that, like, happy flirtatious relationship, you have to make it happen.
You do.
Yeah.
It's work.
Nobody's going to do it for you.
Well, I look at my hunting marriage, because a lot of people like to say, oh, you've got a marriage that works in hunting. So I'm going to let their terminology be the discussion here. And this is an accountant looking at it, is I have to make an investment in it bit by bit, every day, every time if I start thinking, well, what have I really done lately to invest in this relationship? I try to do that. It's as simple as we try to do coffee a couple mornings every week. Kim loves coffee. She loves breakfast. So we're breakfast fans.
Yeah.
So when I'm in town, the Stormcastle Cafe right over here is the best breakfast in town, hands down, or maybe the Western Cafe. It depends on what she's in the mood for, whether it's cinnamon roll French toast or if she's in the mood of an omelet. But we do things like that. And I don't want to say it like it's all calculated, like, ooh, I better do this, or I'm not putting enough into it. If you aren't intuitively feeling like you're putting something into it to carry your half of the, and it's not a tangible feeling that anyone gets from it or benefit. If this is at least me. If I feel like I'm not putting into it, I got to think about that. Well, gee, is it really fair for me to say, oh, guess what, honey, I got this Nevada mule deer tag in August, and then I go right to Arizona, and then I'm blah, 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 blah. And, if the septic backs up, I guess you're going to have to call somebody. If I want to have those accommodations on the output end, I better be doing some investing in the input end.
Yeah.
And I know that, and I say that way because that's how guys look at it.
Yeah.
I got to frame this in a way that the simple mind of a male can understand it, because the three of you are like, well, yeah, geez.
No, but it's smart. You can't expect to just keep drawing on a bank account that you haven't put some cash into, right? Like eventually you're going to run out of cash. So if you're not putting some cash back in or some love back into your relationship or whatever, eventually you're going to be overdrawn.
That's a good way of putting it. I like it. That's simple.
Yeah, that's how I explain to people when they come in and they're fatigued and they have lots of like adrenal stuff and hormonal things. It's like you actually have hormones that are made to go one way to store, so that when you've used up the active, you have money in the bank to borrow from. Most people today don't, because they're going nonstop. They don't have money in the bank. It's the same thing with your relationships. Like if you have nothing, if you have no savings, you can't just expect one day to wake up and realize like, oh gosh, I better do something. It takes time. You need to be working on that actively, or you have nothing. You're in debt now, and you got to crawl out of the hole.
And if your wife's grumpy about you going hunting, maybe you haven't put any in. Maybe you're overdrawn. Maybe you need to put some into the love bank.
If your wife is making, I got a Facebook message from a young girl, 3 kids, all under young. I want to say under the age of 5.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so, and her husband hunts, she says, all the time. And she sent me an email. She must have sent me a late night email, like in a panic. And I don't know her. She read my article. But she said she gave him the ultimatum that he has to quit hunting.
No.
And he basically told her that ain't happening. And then she somehow got on my article and read my article. And she just said, I just don't know how do I fix this? How do I make him want to be here with us?
Yeah.
And that's where there's no money in the bank. That girl has you have nothing to give her anymore. She's exhausted. She's sleep deprived. She has 3 children, and you're telling her that you're going to do what you want to do, to the point where she now has to give you an ultimatum in order to get you to listen. And you're still telling her, I'm not going to give you what you want. That to me is just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing she can do, because I just told her, honey, if you're going to ask for anything, ask for time for yourself. That's what you need right now. You need quiet, you need the spa, you need a massage, you need a book, you need your mom, like whatever you need. But giving him an ultimatum is not going to work. But he obviously hasn't put any money in that bank for a really long time.
Yeah.
And that's just blowing air on a fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how I think of it. Exactly like Jen said, is it's up to. I feel like when your wife is at home having children, and you are responsible for her emotional health.
Yeah.
You are. Sorry, guys.
No, that's it.
Your wife she is so overtaxed and exhausted and giving everything she has to this child, to these children, and trying to give it to you. If you feel left out and you feel like she's not paying attention to you, you don't get what you want, you need to wake up and you need to go home and give her everything you have. She will revive herself. She will be a better woman to you. She will have more energy for her children, and she will have more self-respect for herself. And that is all up to you.
No,
that's my opinion.
That's not an opinion. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And if any of you guys are listening, you just got some of the best advice you're going to get in your whole life. And I'm saying that from personal experience of being one of those guys. We'd been married 1.5 years, 2 years when Matthew came along. And I thought, well, I'm just going to, keep doing what I'm doing. And I mean, you're talking about how much Ryan hunts and what age your kids are. It's like, whew, I couldn't have ever. Ryan, you got something
but
right there.
Ryan's home a lot when he's not hunting. He's a 50-50 dad. He has we moved to Bozeman so he could get out of his job. He could be around more, and he could focus on hunting and this, podcast and everything. And I was willing to go back to work full time to do that so that he could have that experience, because he has worked hard for 20 years. He's provided while I had kids, even through medical school for me. He's done that. So we were flipping the tables a little bit here, and he's currently jobless, which for him is like crazy. And for me, it's crazy, but it's so much fun. And my girls are so happy.
Cool.
And we know when he's going to go hunting, and that's our time. When Dad goes hunting, we go do fun stuff. We have adventures, or we have everyday life. We go to school and Mom goes to work, and we go to Grandma's more, and, it's okay. But he makes sure when he's home, he's home.
Yeah.
And that is where a lot of guys, like he was, go to work all day. They work long days. They come home, they're tired. They don't have time. They don't have energy for their wives either and their kids. They miss out on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, then if the 1 week you go hunting, you're missing out on another week.
Yeah.
So if you're not filling the bucket back up when you are home, in that 2 hours you get to see your kids at night, you're not reading them books. You're not having a conversation with your wife. You're not taking your wife to breakfast a couple times a week. The cup's just not getting filled up,
That was awesome.
Yeah. Jen is like over there just, yep, been there,
awesome
done
advice.
that, lived it.
Yeah.
No, I think when you interject kids to the equation, you are making a decision that is way more important than hunting. And people think that I live this life where my highest priority is hunting. But Bart said it on the past podcast that, Randy, people see you as this guy who's all about hunting. But he knows if Kim walked in here tomorrow and said, you're shutting this operation down, I would for my marriage. But she would never say that.
Mm-hmm.
And when kids come into the equation, if you can't accommodate your schedule and everything else to make it work for a relationship that has kids, then don't have kids. Or you better look in the mirror. Because there's no more important task you have in your life than raising your kids in the healthiest environment you can. And anyone who can't do that and balance hunting, well, I think you got some issues. I don't know how else to say it other than if you are going to make your kids and your family life be the shock absorber to accommodate your hunting, you've set yourself down a pretty difficult path.
All the guys that I've met in this industry since I was introduced to it 2 years ago, the friends that we've made in this industry are some of the most stellar people I know, literally like in my whole life. And a lot of them are just phenomenal fathers. Mm-hmm. They not only take their kids out and teach them about nature like my husband does, they spend time with their children. They dote on their wives. They have a life outside of hunting that is to be commended. And that to me really woke me up to that. Not every guy that hunts is just some selfish jerk who only thinks about himself. It really made me realize that I think in a lot of ways you can turn this around, that hunting actually makes you a better person. Mm-hmm. And if you carry that through into the rest of your life, with your wife, with your children, with that extra time when you're not hunting, if you are that person that you are out in the field and you're practicing what you preach, then that is what makes a healthy family. You don't have to be around 24/7. I mean, come on. Yeah. Ryan and I have probably lasted because he's not around 24/7.
Kim says the same thing.
I mean, if he's gone, like a week is a short trip. I'm like, oh, you're back? It's only been 7 days. 14, 16 days. That can be an average trip. Yeah. But when he's home, it's that quality of time and it's what he does outside of hunting. And then that just attracts you to other commendable people that are living this life. And that's what I've discovered just being introduced to this hunting community, meeting people like you, meeting so many people that are really family oriented and they love the outdoors and they love hunting, but they really put their family first. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would say is to all the thousands of people that are going to listen to this podcast. If you're not putting your family first, you are not truly living like the people that you look up to are, like Randy and a million other guys that I could name off right now that I know. And to me, that's really, I think, where I've seen it happen with Ryan as he's gotten to know more people in this industry and he's become friends with them. These are just people we used to see on TV. These are just people that we used to follow on Instagram. Now he's friends with these people. They're upstanding people. Yeah. And he is now striving to be more like them, not just as a hunter, because he's got that down. Yeah. He strives to be a family person, a better father, a better husband. I mean, my gosh, in the last 2 years, in 2 years, he's changed more than I've seen him change in 22 years. Wow. Yeah, and that's just by being around people in this community that are emulating this. And so, if your wife isn't happy and you're struggling, you're fighting about hunting and you're not around for your kids and you need to wake up because Randy's not doing that. These top guys aren't doing that. You need to do that and you'll be a better person and your wife will be happier. And hey, if your wife's happier, your life's easier. So
happy wife, happy life.
Right?
Absolutely. I will tell you that I put way more pride in my wife telling me, I am so spoiled. I love it when she says that. I get like this warm and fuzzy when she says, I'm so spoiled. Because I'm thinking on the other side of it.
You're so spoiled.
I'm so spoiled. Mm-hmm. And we've found what works for us. And to your point of part of the reason your marriage has lasted how it had because of absence makes the heart grow fonder or whatever you want to call it. When I come back after a season, that I'm home for bits and pieces of it. But it's kind of funny when I come back. She's back to this independent, I'm doing everything, just get out of my way. I got to get this done. and I'm almost in the way for the first week.
Yeah.
I've made the stupid mistake at times to walk into the pantry and say, since when have we started putting the Raisin Bran up here?
While you were gone.
Yeah, and I kind of say it to myself, like I couldn't find the Raisin Bran. It usually is down there. And she gives me this look like, pal, I've been running the joint for the last 4 months. Why don't you just shut up?
Find the Raisin Bran yourself.
And I'm like, oops, did you hear me say that? So, but the reason I give that example is Kim has become very self-sustaining and independent and has become a bit of a different person. At the core, she's still the same, but has, I think, through doing her own things, having her own time, she's developed who she is without us being joined at the hip. Like if we were in each other's pocket all day, every day, forever.
I've read posts before. I remember the first time I ever read a post where somebody said, haven't had a night away from my spouse ever. We've never slept in a separate bed ever. And I'm like, whoa, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like that's like dangerous. Because like, are you kidding me? You've never been one night away from your spouse? Like, I love it. I get the bed like this. If my kids will stay out of the bed, which they're usually in there with me, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like it just makes, you're right. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. You get a little time away, you appreciate each other. You come back, you have that appreciation. And I feel it's super important to have some time away from each other.
I don't get that. Bart's around all the time. Yeah. He's literally around all the time. Like we're self-employed, so
oh yeah.
If he's plowing or something, then he's gone. But Bart is around a lot. We are literally always together. We've spent nights away. That was not my point, but he's always around.
Yeah.
It's okay. I like it.
But it works.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't
We're a team.
always be together, but I'm just saying, like space can be good for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that was the reason I'm bringing it up is there's some, I don't know if it's a security issue or a confidence issue or a trust issue, but there seems to be at early parts in relationships where absence is a point of strife more than a point of growth. I know it was for me at times.
Oh, well, working in Alaska and Russia, like 5 months, no communication. I always wonder about, military wives.
Yeah.
Like, how hard is that? Not only are you like raising your children by yourself, you're like even having children. Like your husband gets you pregnant and then leaves and doesn't even come back to your kid's like 3 months old, and you're doing everything. And I remember when Ryan would come back, that same thing. It's like, I've been working this house. I've been mowing the lawn. I've been paying the bills. Don't even tell me what to do. Right? And then it takes about 3 months. And then it's like, okay, we're in the swing. We're married. And then the next thing you know, it's June. And he's flying out and leaving again. And so I always thought about like military wives, like just that it's hard when you're doing it that much, right? Because you're never, you have to be independent. But then now you're married.
Yeah.
But then you're independent and you're married. It's like so many struggles. So yeah, again, marriage is hard.
So what have we not covered that is really important? Jen raised her hand.
I raised my hand because I'm in class. I just thought about, we keep talking about that advice that you gave me about if you take a trip, your wife gets a trip or whatever. And I was thinking about how we couldn't have done that when Bart and I were newlyweds. And so I think part of for those girls, if there's any listening, I don't know how many girls listen. Do you know how many girls listen?
I don't.
Girls listens. Anyway, if there's not money for you to go to take a trip and your husband's not taking trips, because Bart didn't go to Alaska when we were newlyweds, if they're gone hunting, you need to find things to do that are fun with your kids. Like, don't just sit at home and do the dishes. Like, get out and go to the park. And you have to make life fun for yourself, because if you think that they're going to be feeling bad while they're out there having the time of their life hunting, they're just not. And so you're going to have to, they're just not. And so you're going to have to find a way to have fun with your kids, whether it's buying a season pass to the pool so that I guess that's not in the fall. And whatever it is, if it's a pass to the Museum of the Rockies or whatever, and when he goes hunting, you go for the evening, and whatever it is, you need to figure out a way to have fun with your kids until you are financially set or your kids are old enough that they can go hunt, whatever it is. Like, you have to find a way to make yourself happy.
in the rare times that I'm not with Mike hunting, I'll go to the gym in the morning and go get breakfast with my girlfriends. Like it's something
Make
that I
yourself
enjoy.
happy.
You know, or like I'll sleep in. I don't get to sleep in when he's there very much. Or I'll watch a Netflix series that he wouldn't put up. You know what I mean? But like you make it like a positive association. Like it's not always negative. And then I don't know, you get to enjoy, like, I don't know about you guys, but when your husbands come back, they're always so happy and like they feel so fulfilled and
Their
like
cup is filled back up again.
Yeah, exactly. So you get to enjoy that too.
So make it happy for yourself too.
Yeah, fill your cup back up so he doesn't walk in the door and you're like, I know. What are you so happy about?
I just didn't feel like we covered that yet. Maybe you feel like we already did, but there might be people that are out there and they're like, I can't afford a trip, or I can't have 5 days away from my husband after he has 5 days, whatever it is. Like you got to work on yourself a little bit, figure out some things to make yourself happy with those kids. Because
The corollary to that is if there are guys listening, encourage your wife to go do those things.
it's true.
Don't expect that they're just going to sit at home and stare out the window waiting for you to come
Well,
back
they might
in
not
the
have
driveway.
$500 to go to Hawaii, but do they have $10 to take their kids to the movie while they're gone hunting, or whatever it is, whether it's McDonald's chicken nuggets, like there's all different levels of finances, whatever it is, she should get to go do something fun as well.
So people who are not married, we have a lot of people who are dating.
I don't have any.
And let's face it, when we're dating, we all have these expectations of
That's right.
what it's going to be, right? So on the last podcast, we told setting the expectations from the guy's
Is this for
standpoint.
Michael?
This is for anybody.
anybody, okay.
Anybody listening was, don't think that you can have a different... the expectations you have are not going to be met on both sides, but don't think that your flaws and your difficulties are going to get better just because you get married.
Yeah, no.
Be honest and upfront before you get married of what the deal is to the extent possible. Is that
I think that's true.
true?
Always good to be open and honest before you get married.
Okay.
Bart would say it's still a bait and switch. He thought he was marrying a cowgirl, and
Really?
yeah, he thought he was getting a cowgirl. And we had horses, and I rode horses, but I don't like his horses. They buy the cheapest horses they could find. So Bart would say it's still a bait and switch because he thought he was getting a cowgirl that hunted. And I already told that story. My dad hunted, but it's not like a Mayboy hunts. And we had horses, and I rode them, but I don't want to ride his horses. So Bart would still say it's a bait and switch. And I would too. I didn't know that hunting was every moment of our life.
Not that big. When we got married, he was mainly a fisherman. He was a fly fisherman in Alaska. He was a steelhead fisher, and then he went mule deer hunting in October.
Yeah.
That was it.
Sealed the deal.
Yeah.
And like I said, now it's ridiculous, and it's all big game.
Do you
he
feel
doesn't
like
even
you're honest?
steelhead anymore. He doesn't fly fish. He might now that he's in Bozeman. He'll start fly fishing again, maybe. But yeah, I think like over 20 years, it's radically changed. So who he was when we got married and
Not the same.
what we were interested in was really different. So I mean, I'm totally different too. I came home. I don't know how many years were we married. 5 or 6 years. I don't even remember. And was like, I think I want to be a doctor. And he was
awesome.
like, what? And I was like, yeah, I think I want to be a doctor. But I had 9 years of school left to do at 27.
Whoa.
And he was like, no, you don't want to do that. And then he realized I was serious, and he wasn't very happy about it because we had income, we had a lifestyle. He went to Alaska. I had a good job. And I was like, well, yeah, I think I'm going to do it.
People change.
And he said, well, Hillary, you're going to do it whether I support you or not. So I might as well just support you. And I was like,
Good
yeah,
for you.
You're right. But I mean, like, we're different. Like,
Yeah.
you change over time what you want and what you figure out. And yeah, I think men should not get married until they're about 32.
Oh gosh, then Randy would not be married, and neither would Bart,
I wouldn't be married.
and neither would you.
I got
I'm
married
only
at
saying
24.
that. I'm only saying that if I revert back to the emotional health of men. They don't really, I don't feel like they emotionally start getting out of the selfish stage and start seeing these things till their mid-30s.
I think it's,
But-
they don't do that until they've been married 10 years.
I think so, too.
Okay, maybe that's
if they
what
got
it
married at
is.
32, they wouldn't reach that
Till
phase till
40.
they were
Yeah.
42.
So
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so that makes sense. So see, that's my theory. So we got married at 24. Ryan was 23. Yeah, he was about 33, 34. Things started kicking in.
10 years. Good
there
job,
we go.
Whitby.
So that's
I like
just-
your theory
that's-
better.
That's my personal observation. But Morgan, you guys, the reflective time for you to go back and say, oh, well, this was the expectation and this is the reality. Were there things that you could give it? Could you give some advice to guys listening of, as far as if you're in a relationship and you're thinking about getting married, here's some things you probably ought to be honest about or plan for up front so we don't have unmet
The cost of
expectations.
tag applications for this state and other states.
That's still
And the
a problem.
deadline. I went to go get my hair done like a year ago, and I checked our account, and I was like, excuse me. What
no money.
did our account get hacked? Oh no, babe. I had to get some bonus points for this and this. Like
Bonus points.
just like things like, I don't know, just little things like that. Being open and upfront about like, hey, I'm probably not going to go to that family function, or, from this time to this time, I'm probably not going to want to go out to dinner with your friends. Any other time is fair game, but just
We can't have children from here to here.
yes, very
That
much
was an
so.
ultimatum,
Yep.
and luckily he got kids in that time
Yeah.
frame.
Yeah.
But that was one of our his ultimatums.
So if in the other podcast I said this, I'd be interested to see what the three of you think. I eloped.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
You love it?
done
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
I wish we would have done that too.
Yeah. We had a simple wedding.
I didn't pay any of these women to say that. Woo! So,
That whole thing is a sham. That whole wedding, I don't, and I was part of it because I'm a
so
florist. But all that hoopla, like you were so smart to just elope and save the money.
well, we didn't have any money.
I think it's great.
The $20 in a blood test was more than we could almost afford.
I think it's great.
And Kim said, well, my family can't make it. Your family can't make it if we get married 5 days from now. I'm like,
But
that's
who cares?
the point.
It's just about the two of you.
Right. So,
Exactly.
eloping is something to
I
think
wish
about.
I would have done that instead.
Oh, man.
The whole thing is-
I feel so validated.
We got married twice.
Oh, way to
Twice?
go.
So we got engaged in December. Some living situation stuff came up, and it was like late February, early March. And I was like, it would really simplify things if we were just like married. And so we went to the courthouse, got our marriage license, whatever. Our pastor married us with my parents, his parents. Everyone thought I was pregnant. Which wasn't the
Oh,
case.
that's funny.
And then we got married 3 months later, but like just did like a family, it was small. It was like 75 people, but like, I don't know. We initially wanted to have a really small wedding, but my parents were like, hey, like we'd help you guys pay for it. Like all the family wants to come out and see it. So for us, it was nice to really have that time that was like just for us. You know what I mean? Like that wedding and commitment just for us. But I always like advise small wedding, like whatever you want, but I mean, my sister-in-law is still paying off her wedding from
I think
a
that's
divorce
ridiculous.
that was 6 years
Whoa.
ago. So like, and it's one day, it's here and gone.
My brother had this ridiculous. His first wife, they had this. They had 300 people. She came in on a horse-drawn
No
carriage at
way.
Estes Park. They rented an entire village at Estes Park where we all stayed. 300 people. I remember I had already finished my food, and there were still people waiting in line to eat.
Wow.
And
That
it
doesn't
was
sound fun.
it was just a crazy expensive thing, you
Yeah.
know. And of course they're not married now, but.
Oh my gosh.
But
that's
you
so
think about
scary.
that, yeah. I mean, Ryan and I had a wedding. My parents paid for a small portion, and we paid for the rest. We got married on the beach, and I wouldn't have taken that back. And I will tell you that for many years, when we didn't have good times and we had strife. And Ryan and I almost got divorced in medical school. We had papers signed and everything. And
Oh
that's
my
another
gosh.
funny story. It's not funny, but that's another story of marriage and how things can change. But for many years, whenever I would get mad at him or I would be frustrated or I'd be like, I'm done, I want out of here, I just would close my eyes and think about the way he looked at me on our wedding day. And I would just say, okay, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And when we were getting divorced, I had a picture. Somebody was sitting on my side and they took a picture of us, my back and his face. And I had a picture of him with that look on his face. And I carried that picture through all that time. And I looked at that picture a lot. And I would say that picture is probably what saved our marriage.
Wow.
Because in that moment, whether it's eloping at the courthouse, wherever, there's a moment when you get married, I think, where there's a moment that you have between yourselves where you're committing yourselves to each other.
Yeah.
And marriage is not going to be easy, and there's going to be a lot of times where you just forget that, and you forget that you had that moment. And I think if you can just think back to that moment, you might be surprised that you can find that place again where you can come together, and
Do you think we've lost like all the hunters? Do you think they're still listening to the marriage advice?
So here's what's happening.
They're like, this is too cheesy.
Guys have paused the podcast and they're now
getting
someplace.
Their wives.
No, they're going someplace private to listen to this. No, they're like, this is serious stuff, man. They're laying it down. And so before we got married, Kim and I dated for almost 2 years, and about a year into it, she's 3 years older than I am. And she's the old, if you ever watch My Cousin Vinny when Marissa Tomei is on the front porch of the cabin stomping her foot, my biological clock is ticking. When I saw that movie, I started laughing because Kim went prior to whenever that movie came out, prior to it, she kind of laid the same thing on me. And she said, are you in this for something serious, or is this just like a casual relationship for you? And here's how dumb guys are. I said, I don't know. I got to think about that. I was alone for about 6 weeks.
That's all corpus callosum got you in trouble. Can't think about it too quickly.
Exactly. I was being honest. I'm like, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. My point of bringing that up is I might be sticking my neck in the guillotine here, but you people, you women communicate not literally.
What?
Guys, if you say something, the guy takes that as literal.
Oh,
yes.
When he's first married. By now, by my age, you've got a decoder. This is what that really means. If she says, go ahead if you want to, she stopped with the last part of the sentence of, go ahead if you want to pay dearly.
Oh.
Right? Ooh. So I'm just, for the guys out there, do not take things literally. Really pay attention to what's being said, but what's being communicated, not what's being said. Do you agree with that? Or do you guys communicate in a different manner that you expect them to read your mind?
Go, Morgan. Go for it.
Depends on the time. Like, it depends on, obviously, if it's something I'm not thrilled about, I'm going to be like, whatever, do whatever you want. You know what I mean? But you're going to pay dearly later. And then there's times where I genuinely am like, go do whatever you want. Like, yeah, that's totally fine. But I don't think it's always fair for me to, expect him to understand the difference between the two.
Sounds like it's tone related.
It is
like we talked about before.
It is very tone related.
So one was really happy that we said it.
Yes.
I think it is that it's how you're talking to him, not what you're saying.
And
See, guys don't understand.
You can't hear the tone. You don't hear the tone.
We are tone
only when we're angry
deaf.
at you. Gotcha.
So any women listening to this, understand the guy you are communicating to is tone deaf. He does not understand tone. He understands the English language. In Webster's, it says, go ahead if you want to means yes, you can go do that.
That's what I
mean. It's funny because in childhood, there's these different age, like they would classify, and there's the cognitive age, which is like 8 to 9. And before that, you're in the kind of subconscious age where everything is literal. So if you ask a kid something,
they tell you the truth.
They just literally tell you what's going on. And you're like, oh. And sometimes they say, you're like, oh, you're not supposed to say that because it's so literal that it's just. So it's kind of what you're saying is these guys are still kind of in this like literal phase, 4 to 7-year-old range where they're just literally thinking like, literally, this is what she's saying to me. Like, and taking it that way.
Even at age 54, I'm still that way.
Yeah.
Kim knows that certain times she will say things and I'll be like, oh, okay. And then there's this pause of like, you still don't get it. And I'm like, no, I don't get it. What the hell are you, what do you mean? You just said that. And now she's like, all right, I just got to say what I really mean. My point to any women listening is say what you really mean in words.
That's
because
hard.
guys do not have the mental capacity, the emotional capacity to look at this jigsaw puzzle of women's words and tone and feeling and
But
meaning.
do men have the emotional capacity to actually deal with what you say? If you say it literally?
No,
You're
but we'll
being
get
an
over
asshole.
Right.
You are being an asshole.
Yeah.
You are making me mad and you are selfish.
Right. But the quicker you...
What are they going to react to, right? Like,
they're-
that's the fear. Like, if you literally say to them what you're thinking, they're...
No, say it. Because
Okay.
here's where the process... Here's where you make progress with that. So back to the justice and peace thing.
Yeah.
So you say, you know what, you're being the biggest jerk in the world. Why are you being this way? Early in his life, he's getting married, he's going to be defensive about it. But the more battles, whatever you want to call it, the more events where he's got to think about, oh, was I really being a jerk? The quicker he gets to the point of wanting peace rather than justice. So that's my
I think you're right. Bart hates strife. Like he'll do whatever he can to repair it as fast as possible because he hates that nasty space that you're in when you're fighting. So he'll repair it if he can figure it out. He'll repair it as quick as he can because he doesn't like the silent treatment or the grumpy or whatever. He'll do whatever. Usually it's food for me. Take me out to dinner and I'm good.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well,
Simple things.
my point is, and that, I've been picking on the guys pretty hard because
You have.
we
You're tough on
are we have a very narrow our peripheral. Women have a full peripheral view. Guys have blinders. Okay, we can see straight ahead, and we're going straight ahead. Get out of the way. So understand that as you communicate with guys.
Gotcha.
Don't expect that they're seeing tone, hearing tone. Don't expect that they're seeing body language. They're, over time, they learn that you have certain responses as like, ooh, I stepped in at that. They will learn that. But don't lead them down that path of, well, I'm just going to communicate this way. And if he doesn't understand it, well, that's his fault.
Well, we are women. We have to have some mystery still. You guys have to be on pins and needles a little bit. It's fun that way.
You women have more mysteries. If I lived to be the age of Moses, I wouldn't even start to understand those mysteries. And the beauty of that is sooner or later, guys are like, well, I'm never going to understand it. So let
I'll
me just
go with
focus
that.
on
Yeah.
what I know and what I can improve, and let's deal with that.
See?
Because guys can compartmentalize that and with their narrow
If they
view.
want to improve on it, though, I think this is where we have this right now. We're talking about like emotionally healthy guys who really see their fault and they want to work on it. But there's a lot of people who have to first get beyond themselves and their ego or whatever else to even see that. And that can be frustrating, I think that may be what's the most frustrating when you're younger and you haven't been through these couple decades that we've been through to kind of work through that. It's like the ego plays such a big piece in this when you start coming after somebody, even literally, like you said, they get defensive and then their ego kicks in. And to work on that, like you got to actually take some responsibility and some fault. And I mean, I know people that are like old people that still are doing the same thing and acting the same way, like, that never take responsibility for anything. And so I think it can depend on the person you're with.
True.
And what their willingness is to change. And I think that's where sometimes I feel like some guys they just throw their hands up and they just don't do anything. Like whatever. She's going to be mad whatever I do. And the woman's just constantly at him and he never stands up for himself or defends himself or he never tells her how he feels. And then there's the guy that doesn't listen and he doesn't care and he just does what he wants. And so you got to be in the middle there, stand up for yourself, say what you need, but you also got to be able to give a little bit and get over yourself and let go of your ego a little bit, and it's I don't know. That's the hard one.
Never underestimate the fragility of the male ego.
True.
No, I'm saying that. I mean, when I was 22, man, I was like a China doll. It didn't take much to shatter my ego. I mean, if someone looked at me I'm like, well, what's their problem? I'm exaggerating here a little bit.
Testosterone.
It
The
is.
doctor speaks.
No,
16 to
it
22 is the peak of your testosterone.
Is it? Okay.
Why do you think they send 18-year-old kids to war?
Well, that's probably true.
You're gonna. What are you looking at? I know everything. I got it figured out. You know, you get 1% decline every year after the age of 30. So you start getting wiser.
Maybe that's why guys get smarter after about that point.
Yeah.
But
Not as much fire going on.
well, I just point that out is that's just a trait that guys have that, you know, if you're trying to communicate with them, understand their ego gets a little hurt, but they'll come around. And if they don't, well, they're probably not worth the long-term investment. You know, for those of you not married, don't think it's going to get, if it's already a rocky road, don't think getting married is going to make it better.
No, that doesn't fix it.
It doesn't.
No, that's we've all seen the mistakes of, we'll just get married and then it'll be better.
And then how about we have a couple kids to make it even better?
Yeah,
Fix it. It's like,
that's
dear.
like going from a tremor to a full-blown earthquake right there, my friends. The building is coming down, but
So I have a question.
sure.
Is
For
it
me or
easy
for the
men,
audience?
for you, because you're the
okay.
only man in this room.
Okay.
I have this question about how long can you hold out before you give in?
Oh.
Guys,
Because I feel like, well, my husband's really good at it. He could just go days, and then eventually time goes by, and we both forget about it, and it's done, and then he doesn't have to address it. I feel like that was his old strategy. Just like we just wouldn't talk to each other for a day or two, and then the time would just go by, and then eventually you'd just be like, okay, I feel like men can really do that much better than women. That's really hard for me to do. I go on a full day without talking about it. Boy, that just makes me so mad.
Right.
And I feel like actually a day or two for him makes him better, like where he doesn't have to address it. And it makes me mad, but after a while I just give in and give up. But
this is a completely unscientific answer.
Okay.
I think it depends. And it depends on if they're in their formative years, if they're came from mostly a female-driven household or a male-driven household. I lived with my mom. I was the oldest of three when they got divorced, and she did get remarried a few years later. But my mom was
the matriarch.
I looked to my mom for all kinds of advice and observed and learned. And my mom had to deal with difficult situations by saying, you know what, I'll accommodate and I'll make the best of it. In the long run, everything will be better than digging in my heels. And I've got family, I've got friends who grew up where it was the guy who was kind of the dominant figure in the household. And he's like, when hell freezes over, I'm going to talk about this or I'm going to change.
Right.
And they've kind of went forward with their lives being a little bit more of I'm not going to deal with it. Whereas me, it's like, let's get this on the table. Let's take care of this and let's move on. And growing up in a divorce household with my mom as kind of the leader, I think has changed my outlook on life way different than if I would have grown up in a household with a guy who was the leader. But maybe I say that as just completely unscientific. But now at my age of thinking, all right, what are my coping mechanisms? How do I deal with things? They're just about all learned from my mom.
That makes sense. That does make sense. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I guess that makes me a sensitive guy.
Oh, that's so nice.
No, I think of growing up in that situation, as difficult as it was at the time, I think it has helped me understand. And maybe I'm a slightly better communicator,
Yeah.
my decoder of the female world it's not very good, but it's slightly better than I'm one standard deviation away from the bell curve of the average American
Well, men that I
male.
know that have like lots of sisters, they're way more emotionally tuned in. Like they learned what it's like to be around a lot of women. They learned how to communicate with them. They learned how they communicate. They learned the signals.
Wow.
And they definitely are. I feel like they're more open and they're more emotionally. I don't know, maybe
Just tune with maybe how they're feeling.
Yeah, maybe with women, they just understand women more because they grew up with all these sisters or a single mother and sisters and stuff. So I do see that.
So women listening to this thinking of getting into a relationship, are you saying you should select for a future husband that comes
You
from
can't
a
do that.
female-dominated
No,
household
you
of
can't do
sisters
that.
and mothers?
You love who you love.
Or are you just saying...
Well, that's going to leave a lot of men out.
Right.
So you
read
shouldn't
the
do
landscape
that,
and read your landscape and set your
well,
expectations
you know, a lot of people
appropriately.
do marry for the person's family.
Oh,
Oh,
I
really?
mean, my
I would never
parents
do
got
that.
married. My mom came from what would kind of be, she came from multiple marriages. Her mom had been married a couple. Her dad had died, multiple marriages, maybe not the most functional household. She met my dad, and my dad's parents on the outside world were literally, it was like Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah.
Two sisters, perfectly pressed clothes, football star. My grandpa was superintendent of a high school. My grandma taught piano to deaf, blind people. She was amazing. And my mom was like, I think I married your dad for his parents because his parents were so amazing. I thought, geez, if I have them in my life, our life can be so amazing. And so I do think sometimes when you gravitate towards people, you either love their family or you don't. But sometimes, if you love their family, it can make it easier for you to make a decision whether or not, you're going to marry that person. But not always, but in some cases, maybe.
So my point in that is, if you're not married and you're in love with this person, kind of scan the landscape here and see and set your expectations accordingly so that when he, or maybe he says, it's September and I know your sister's getting married, but I'm going hunting. Yeah. You kind of know what's going to work or not work in that situation. So if a guy says, I'm not getting married between 1st of September and the end of November, is he being selfish or is he being practical?
I don't know. I didn't
Practical.
August is when we got married, so I don't.
Morgan, when did you guys get married? February, you said?
This is funny. Our dating anniversary, I think it was September 4th. And I was like, we could get married on September 4th. It fell on a Saturday. This is when we were looking at wedding dates right after we got engaged. And Mike was like, no. Nope, that's bow season. And what's ironic about bow season is I got him into shooting archery. He had only been a rifle hunter before, so I kind of put it on myself. And it worked out good. We wouldn't have made it that long. But I don't know. I think I don't know. It's just kind of normal. You know what I mean? If that's a big part of their life, I don't really blame them for wanting to take a lot of time off during that time.
I got married in February.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, full disclosure, there was some methodology to that. I did not want to get married in the fall. Even though I knew I was gonna elope because I didn't have any money, so that was just that was a given. So if a guy says, "Hey, let's plan to the extent we're gonna plan kids, let's plan that outside of hunting season," is that selfish?
This is all a good point because it comes back to the peace of justice or give and take, all of that kind of stuff. You have to be willing to, at that point, if he blays it out there and he tells you that hunting is his everything and he says, please let's not get married during my favorite time of the year, and you push for it, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. So I think it's all give and take. If he says that, go August 28th or go, I don't know.
So here's
ridiculous.
what's going through his head when he says it is,
Okay.
I'm trying to be honest and truthful to prevent future, complications. And if the pushback he gets is, well, you're just a selfish SOB, you're blah, 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 he's going to take that as, I can't do anything right. I've laid this out there because I'm trying to make life great for us, and now I no good deed goes unpunished is kind of his mindset. Do women see it as he's being practical and pragmatic, or is he being selfish?
When he first told me we couldn't have kids between September and the end of November, I was like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? Like, what? Well, now I see it as very practical because my first daughter's birthday's in January, which is Coos dear now, but
He's not coming with me next year then, now that I know that.
well, the trip was good this year because she's towards the end of January.
Okay.
But then our other one's April, and it works really good. We don't have conflict around birthdays. We don't have conflict around that. Maybe we have the September conflict with other people's stuff, but I'm over that now. And his birthday is the opening day of mule deer season in October, so he's in heaven. That's where he wants to be. We're like, great, go for it. I think it's practical. I think that it's saying that he cares enough to think ahead about these things. And if he doesn't want to get married or have children in those months, that you should listen enough to respect that, like she said. And if you can't handle that or you push for it, you're just asking for trouble. You just want drama. And I think it's being kind.
Oh, man. You guys are validating all of my, not all, but these are some things
that take time to come to. I wouldn't say I just jumped on that
I don't
boat.
think that's a newlywed thing that you think of. It's after a while.
Too, it's, you're so short-sighted. Like, why can't we get married in September? Like, this sport, it's Labor Day or whatever. You're not thinking maybe long term like the guy is. It's more short term feelings, ego, things like that.
Don't you love me?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't you just want to get married?
Don't
you love me?
That's like a dagger you pull out and jab in their heart. That's back to this part of where in 6th grade they split the boys and girls. One of the things they told
Don't
you
love
women
me?
is when all else fails, say, I'm not as important. You don't love me.
You're thinking that, but that's really what we like, what you were talking about in that newlywed phase when he chooses a weekend of hunting over a weekend with you, and you've picked this man to spend the rest of your life with. That is a dagger to the heart to us girls.
That's what you feel?
That is how we feel. Like, I picked you. You're my favorite, but you won't pick me back. It's very hurtful. Those first few years, when you're not hunting with them and they pick to go hunting instead of be with you, it hurts pretty bad.
Really?
Oh, would you not agree?
Oh yeah, like it traumatized
hurtful.
my marriage for 15 years.
It's hurtful.
It made me feel like hunting was always going to be more important than me.
It's not. It's not a
he
ploy.
never
It's
said
not a
that
ploy.
to me. He never said that to
Bart
me.
didn't either.
But his actions, just one action, and there was probably other actions that I've forgotten about, but that one action of saying, I love you, but I have to go do this. I love you, but I promised you I wouldn't go, but I have to go because I just have to go.
I wish we could take a
There's
picture of
no
Rennie's
real
face
reason
right now.
behind why you have to go.
There's
still deer up there, and there will be deer there a year from now and 20
I
years
agree.
from now. You don't have to go. You
Now we're getting to the
choose to go.
Exactly.
And
You
you
choose.
choose to leave me.
Look at his face.
And it's your choice. So to me, that says, what's the most important choice?
Wow. This is like an irreconcilable divide here that I'm trying to get over because I'm.
How do you see it, though? You see it as
A need, a necessity.
Yeah, it's I'm not. It's not me choosing the deer over you. Not at all.
I'm just telling you our perspective. That's the way our minds think. It's not a ploy. Like, we're not trying to be mean or to envy to you. It feels like we thought that we would be with you all the time. We married you. We thought that we were choosing each other. But for like several months of the year, every weekend, you choose to go hang out in the wilderness with elk instead of with us. And it's a little like, you're like, dang, he likes hunting more than me. That sucks.
See, because guys are like, there's some underlying issues here. She just pulls that out like a...
No, it's not.
No,
I think
there's millions of women that feel this way, that are sitting at home going, what did I do? Why doesn't he love me? Why would he rather be doing this than be with me?
So you guys,
laying it real.
you guys think that every time a guy decides to do something, it's
Not-
an either or
No,
of...
not now. That was
I don't
when I was
think
a
that
newlywed.
now, when I was a newlywed.
It's
Really?
a newlywed thing.
Yeah.
That's why the road's so bumpy at the beginning, because
it's a
guys
newlywed
have
thing.
no idea.
It's a newlywed thing. I would never do it now. Like if Bart wants to go hunting, I'm like, and a new pair of shoes. Thank you very much. Like I have coping mechanisms, but as a newlywed, all you can see is the hurt of that he's picked hunting instead of hanging out with you.
Really?
I think so.
I agree. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
in my situation, he'd been home 12
that's crazy.
hours.
You definitely
yours is a
So mine wasn't just like, oh, it's a random weekend and I've just spent 5 months with him. So in my situation, but every time after that, if he chose that instead of spending the weekend with me, it immediately went back to that, oh, he loves hunting more than me. And he's always going to choose hunting over me. If I said to him, you know what I really want to do? I want to go to, I don't know,
the movie, whatever it is.
the movie.
Yeah.
Let's go to Paris for the week. Of course, he would be like, what? No. But like, it was always like, no, I have to do this. I'm not going to choose what you want to do. It's not about what you want to do. It's about what I want to do. And that would, again, it wasn't actually the act of hunting. It was the fact that it was just hunting. It would be the same thing if he was playing golf all weekend long, every single week.
It was viewed as a choice that he made that put you in second place.
And the only
Yes,
way you would be able
exactly.
to be with him is if you went with him.
Yep.
So he's not going to give an ounce to you and say, yes, I would love to go to Paris and tour churches with you because that's what you want to do. No, he's not going to give that to you. But in order for you to get to be with him, you have to give him what he wants.
Yep.
That's basically how it would work.
Look at Randy's. I wish there was pictures on the podcast. I wish everyone could see your face right now. You're blown away.
I'm just not buying it.
You're not buying it? You think it's a
I mean, I believe what you guys are saying, but I'm
'cause
not.
he's a man.
I'm not buying the idea that guys are making an either or choice.
No, I
It
don't
is
think
not.
that they are. I'm telling you what our perception of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, our
Okay.
perception.
And it's when you get farther along that you figure out how you're going to make yourself happy and that they're not choosing something. But as a newlywed, all you can see is that you love this man and you chose to spend the rest of your life with him. And he chooses to spend his life with elk in the forest. It's a newlywed thing.
It
Okay.
is. No,
I
it
would never do
absolutely
that
is.
now. I'm like, whatever.
yeah, me too.
Go hunting.
Yeah, I'll go to Paris. You
Hawaii's
go
calling
hunting.
my name.
We're good.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
Everyone's happy.
Yeah. But it's more just the thought. It's just this. It's the energy around the whole situation. And I think this is where when you're newly married, you have new responsibilities. Not just you anymore. You have new responsibility. You have to really take into consideration your partner's feelings.
I
And if
agree.
you're just going to walk away and be like, well, you're just being emotional and you don't even care.
You're a girl.
You're just a girl. Like, that is not helping your situation.
And I love that you guys do that together. I wish that
Well,
we would
yeah.
have picked that up because I didn't have an interest in it back then. And so I don't know if that might have been totally different.
Yeah, and I mean, it's lucky, but then I also feel like, well, you went hunting and you got to spend 2 weeks. I didn't get to spend as long hunting.
See, then it's time for
can
time.
I also go have a girls' week? You know what I mean? Like it's a little bit harder to find a balance because in some ways I want to be out there with him just as badly, and I just can't. You know, he's come back to time. He saves most of his paid time off for that time of the year. So, but it's I don't know. I feel very fortunate that I have such a great hunting partner.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
something that we look forward to
Yeah,
together.
and what
but
about that question? So you have a job where let's say you get 2 weeks off a year.
Yeah.
I don't know what the average is for people now. 2 weeks paid.
Whatever. Yeah.
You don't take family vacations. You only go hunting.
Now, you got problems if that's what you're doing.
A lot of guys, that's what they do.
I know.
That's what they save their time up. That's it. They don't even go on family vacations. They don't take that week out of that 2 weeks and go with their family.
Right. And
Like,
I would bet that if
I
you
find
could,
that would cause a problem.
If you could sample a large size of those relationships that gave you a confidence level of 95%, if you sampled enough of them,
Yeah.
you would have a divorce rate way higher than the norm
Yeah.
in those type
I
of
think you're right.
scenarios.
agreed.
And the reason I say that, I can think of quite a few of
Yeah,
them
I
that
think
where
you're
it was
right.
like, I hunt, screw it. And I'm like, whoa,
Yeah,
pal,
yeah.
that you're heading down the track that dead ends here. And sure enough. So my answer, if that was a question to me, is that's stupid. You gotta
Bad choice.
understand what's the reality of your situation And what's the way that's fair and balanced to work within that? Because I also, when Kim and I had those, debates or kind of back and forth over how we're going to allocate time or budget, I don't think she was trying to say, oh, I don't want you to go hunting. It was, hey, pal, you work tax season all this time, and then you're going to go turkey hunting for 2 weeks?
Right.
Never thought about that one. Yeah. So I think that, again, that gets back to if you're a guy and you're doing that, you better understand the more you do that, the thinner the ice is getting.
For sure.
And sometimes when you fall through the ice, you ain't getting back out. That ship is sinking. So, but we've been here a long time.
Yeah,
so before we wrap up, what is the one thing that?
What?
Yeah, we've been at it for 2.5 hours.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the one thing that guys do where you just roll your eyes and say, "Do you really think I'm that stupid?" As it relates to them trying to rationalize their hunting. Like at my house, early on, it was, well, honey, but I'm bringing home some meat here. And instead of justifying the meat from it's high quality, it's healthy, it's
organic,
all that, I was like being the accountant. I'm like, well, yeah, but look, if you went down to the grocery store, there's going to cost. And I always tell everybody, because this was my goal in life, marry the smartest person. There's this balance of, if someone's really smart, they're going to be smart enough to not marry an idiot like me. So where's that sweet spot of?
Right.
So I married the smartest person I could that would put up with me. And she's just like, really, come on. don't insult my intelligence here. Is there?
I manage the finances.
Okay.
And when he says to me that it's cheaper for him to go hunting than to buy meat at the store, I just laugh because that's like where the Cabela's card comes in, or the tags come in, the points come in, the states that he's put in for come in. It's like the gas money. He'll sleep in his truck.
I saw it down in Arizona. He slept in the back of his truck every day.
He's cheap that way. He's great that way. But you cannot tell me this is cheaper than going and buying some beef at the grocery store. It's just an excuse. And when he's now got 3 elk, 300 pounds each, and 2 mule deer, and now he wants to go, whatever. It's like, that's no longer an excuse. Right. So let's just say what it is. You want to go hunting. You love to hunt. You're going to go hunting. We just need to figure out, we need to make sure we can afford all this. This is, and that's where it comes to me. So I hate that excuse of I'm getting meat for the family and all this. And I was like, getting meat for the family is like going and shooting a cow elk out of your truck and, bringing it home. And you're not gone for 16 days with no communication 6 times a year. This is not how it works. It's what he loves to do. It drives him. It fills his cup. It makes him a better father. It makes him a better husband. But let's get real about what it is.
There you go. I hope you were listening to that, guys. That right there. Don't pull the smoke screen out and insult your spouse's intelligence by saying, "Oh yeah, but look at the money I save us."
Yeah.
Morgan, Jen, there any things that get pulled out as come on.
I don't know, just it's only a few months out of the year. And so there's been times I'm like, well, so if I didn't choose to go with you and if I didn't enjoy this, you would just leave me at home? Well, yeah, it's just a couple months, just a few months, and that. And I think he'd revise that and it wouldn't be the case, but that definitely rubbed me wrong, you know what I mean, for a while and made me kind of spiteful. But I don't know, just validate that as a woman, I enjoy spending time with my husband. That's something that I need. We function better if we're closer together. If we're too far apart, we get more distant, and distance for us isn't necessarily we can handle distance, but long periods of time on us is hard. It's just not, we don't cope as well. And so for him to just be no, it's just a few months was buddy, validate that that you need me as much as I need you, I don't know. And also I know you want to hunt, but don't pass up. I saw a nice buck, but I'm just not ready to give up hunting yet. I'm the purpose is to fill the freezer. don't wait until the last day and then be upset because you passed on all these animals because they weren't big enough. But now, I don't know.
That's
picky.
the excitement of the hunt.
I
That's
know.
why my husband's gone 16 days.
Exactly.
Believe me, day 2 he could get an animal.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
don't
about
know.
that
Have
anymore.
a balance. Have your time to go out and be by yourself. But if there's an animal, like, fill the freezer.
So don't say that, honey, I'm out there getting meat for us, and then come back and say, yeah, I passed 4 elk today.
Exactly.
Yeah. Be truthful here. Don't.
Exactly.
Hypocrisy knows no bounds in the mind of the
there
hunter.
you go.
You got any, Jen, of don't insult me?
I've heard both of those.
Yeah.
He doesn't even pull those out anymore. They're not even. He wouldn't even pull those out of the drawer. He's like, yeah, no, those tools are gone. So there's no smoke and mirrors now. I know exactly what it is, and so I don't hear any of those anymore. I have heard them, but he doesn't use those anymore. We know what it is. I know what it is. He knows I know.
That's kind of why they say our spouses know us best, right?
We're a team. We know each other.
Yeah. Well, we've kept people a long time. I've kept the 3 of you a long time. I'm sorry. I hope that anyone who's hung around long enough.
Maybe I'll have to cut half of it out.
The disclaimer is I'm not responsible for any divorces as a result of this advice. Just peace. Everything. If you take all of these trails we went down, they all converge at a point where if you focus on peace and not justice, you'll get to the point of not being defensive, and you'll get to the point of making it better. So it's my way of saying it is by focus on peace, not justice.
I think we all agree.
Agree.
Yes.
We're with you.
Even though
Way to go.
even though I don't agree that guys are making an either or decision, you guys, the 3 of you kind of put me out. I was kind of stressing there.
You looked panicked.
I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna ask my wife
Ask
some
her.
questions.
You
related
text
to
me
that.
and tell me what her response
Yeah,
is.
you know what she's
Yeah.
gonna do? She's gonna call you and say, Jen, what the hell is wrong with him today? Hey, why would he ask that stupid question? Yeah, he was making a choice. Me or him, me or hunting.
It feels that way as a newlywed.
It does
Okay.
feel that way.
All right.
But we
So-
know it's not that way.
Okay, I got to think about that more. I'm still not agreeing, but anyhow, folks, Doc Hillary,
Thanks.
what's the
Fun.
podcast again?
Hunt and Harvest Health.
All right.
Yep.
And they can get it on iTunes,
Anywhere
Stitcher,
they want
all
to
the
get
places
it.
they
Yes.
want. All right.
Yep.
Morgan, thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Jen, thanks so much. I hope that nobody has marital strife as a result of their honesty in this podcast.
I think we'll survive.
You think so?
Yeah.
Morgan?
These aren't things that haven't been said before.
I think Ryan's out in the parking lot with my kids waiting to pick me up.
Oh, no.
Probably chewing his fingernails right
I
now.
am
What
so
are they
sorry.
talking about? No, he had to pick the girls up from school and pick me up from the airport, so it's all good.
Okay.
But he's like,
Because
I'm sure he's
this is the
chomping
longest
at what we're
podcast
talking
we've
about.
ever. This is the longest podcast we've ever recorded.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Way to go. It's
Yeah,
girls.
we're 9 minutes past our prior longest podcast.
Holy cow! Well,
You should
that's
cut
what you get
half
when
of
you
it.
ask women to be on.
I
Sorry.
guess so. So, folks, thanks for listening. I hope you gained something from it. I know I did. I'm gonna have to go home and check my cue cards here and say, "Oh, don't say this anymore, Randy." I call these 3 because I don't have the answer, obviously. Well, thanks to the 3 of you.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate
It was
it.
fun.
Yep.
Yep.
Thanks for listening, folks. Until the next time.